Friends, if you're rolling into here, I think I pissed off YouTube. They, excuse my French, shit canned my entire last stream. Actually went back and looked, and apparently they were sending me some warnings during my live stream. Apparently there were some warnings. If you'll notice, my scene is a little different back here. I was getting warnings, and I did not realize that YouTube was not at all happy with my live stream from earlier. In fact, I could not restart it on that computer over there. As much as I tried to get my live stream going on that computer, it would not work. So I killed that one, came over here to this one, which is where I sit for my Thinktown podcast. And guess what? I can actually stream here. Tell me YouTube does not do what they want, right? Tell me YouTube does not do that. I'm going to, again, try to get things rolling over here so that we can have everything going for the live stream by the time we get going tonight. Remember, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be live with a full panel for the Thinktown podcast. We will have Kendall Pruitt, Chad Marino, and Miss Mackenzie Thorne joining me. And I'm trying to pull up this same live stream that I had from that local Fox 17 affiliate in the Nashville area. So let me pull up their live stream. That again, guys, those of you that are coming back into the channel, they shit canned my excuse my French, my live stream. I don't know how long I had live streamed. The computer didn't crash. YouTube crashed. Oddly enough, I have a workstation over there. You'll notice the background is a little bit different. That's because I was live streaming from my other Mac over here. All right, hold on. See if I can pull this up while I'm talking to you guys. I tried and tried and tried, and I could not.
Fox 17 News has been out in Green Hills all day.
Retrieve and kill this while I'm setting it up. So I couldn't get the live stream to go back over there. So I killed that computer, pulled it off the internet, came over here to this workstation, and lo and behold, it works here. YouTube was not happy with my live stream today. So my apologies for ditching all of you guys. Hope you guys come back. See what this chick's got to say. I don't believe that. Watch this guy fake cry. They didn't show him fake crying this time. Guys, I am going to go do some more investigating on this. I'm going to leave this. Sorry, I had that muted.
Incident that happened at Covenant School.
I'm going to leave this live stream playing so we can try to get everybody back into the room. You see the ticker down at the bottom. Join us. I wish I could make that bolder where you guys could see it, but definitely join us at 8 p.m. tonight. In 2.5 hours, we're going to go into much more detail on this shooting and the issues that we have with calling a boy a girl and a girl a boy when they are not either one or not the other. I'm going to kick this audio back on so you guys can hear it. And I'm going to go grab some supper real quick, freshen up, do some reading, and I will be back. And I hope you guys will. I'm gonna be early, so I'll be back in about an hour, probably an hour and a half, to visit with you guys before we go live. But thank you, Johnny Three Bar. I didn't even think about that, buddy. Just told the old chat to join the new feed. Thank you very much, because I cannot revive that feed. It would not let me. I tried to revive the feed, and it absolutely would. It says it's still running. How weird is that? It literally dropped. Where's my phone? Sorry. Let me go pull. No, I can't. I don't. How is it running? It's crazy, guys. Well, friends, I will be back in a little while. Supper and dinner in the South. I think we call it supper. That's good. What did you say? What's the difference between supper and dinner? Supper, what working guys call it. Yeah, I guess you're right. That's what my mom called it when I grew up. Supper, dinner. My wife calls it dinner. I called it supper. Uh, Look, thanks guys for showing up. Please join me in about 2.5 hours. This is going to be one hell of a show tonight on the Think Town podcast. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of moving parts with this Nashville shooting. Please join me tonight, guys. I think you guys are going to enjoy this, going to have a good time. It's going to be super, super interesting. I think that we're going to probably have a lot of debate on this. I'm looking forward to the comment section. The comment section has been on absolute fire today with all of this going on. You guys have definitely carried the show more than anything, and I appreciate that, guys. I'm going to get out of here real quick. Again, go grab something to eat. Yes, Ron, you can catch it on this channel. We're trying to get people. Ron's asking if it's going to be on this channel. Yes, it will be. We're simulcasting right now on here and the Think Town Podcast YouTube channel. Eventually, you'll only be able to catch the Think Town Podcast on the Think Town Podcast YouTube channel. But I'm simulcasting it right now on Legally Armed America, mainly because of this topic today. But also, I'm trying to get some of the Legally Armed America audience to also follow the Think Town Podcast, because that's where I'll be every Monday night at 8 o'clock. At some point, you won't be able to catch the Think Town Podcast here on Legally Armed America, but right now you can. But again, we're trying to get a lot of those people to follow us over there. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I will see you shortly. This is going to be a good show tonight. One more time, just want to say this. I'm really praying for the families who lost people today, because I think a lot of us are very, very good people. And I get tired of people on the far left telling me that I can't think for and pray for families and people who have lost their lives. Nobody gets the right to tell me who I can think about and pray for. And nobody should ever let you feel bad or shame you for praying or thinking about other people in times of need and tragedy. So I just wanted to put that out there, let you guys know that we're good people. Don't let them turn us into bad people. They're not going to change that for me, guys. So I'm going to also say a couple of quick prayers for the families who are grieving tonight, and obviously some of these students that saw things that they should have never been able to see or never had to see, because we don't have the balls to reinforce our schools and harden them to keep our babies safe at school. Guys, I'm going to say a prayer too for these guys. Grab something to eat, and I'll see you guys here shortly. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you all hanging out with me. I hope to see you guys in about an hour or so.
Well, we've learned
Here we
that
got
the
some
shooter's
audio.
been
Sorry about
identified
that,
as
guys.
28-year-old Audrey Hale, who is trans. Police say that she entered the school through a side door, made her way up to the second floor, engaged in a shootout with Metro Police. Metro Police able to shoot and kill the suspect. We've also learned that the suspect was a former student here at the school.
Now, we continue our coverage now on this deadly mass shooting at the private school in Green Hills by looking at the tragedy. People impacted by this are well beyond those just associated with the immediate Covenant School family and campus. Denise Daniels is a local childhood grief and loss expert joining us now. And we were talking off camera, and I said, thank you for being here. And you said, it's my job. Well, what do you tell the rest of us for whom dealing with grief is not what we do for a living, and it's hard to know where to put all this?
That's really a great question, Scott, because everyone's been devastated by this. Everyone has their heart broken about the devastating experience for the school, the community, and for the United States. Everyone has their prayers and thoughts going out to these families. And for those that are on the sidelines, it's something that's, even though we do it, I've done this my entire life, and but it still touches my heart. I've got grandchildren that age, and so we can all relate at a certain level, and that's why it's so good for all of us to be talking about this tonight.
Now, you mentioned kids. Clearly, there are kids that are at the school. They're going to have professionals. However, I've got kids. You know, my co-anchors, have kids. What do we tell our kids, or do we not tell them?
Well, the very first thing I would advise all parents and grown-ups that care for children is to make sure you're talking to your kids about it. Never make the assumption that children don't know about it. In the old days, back at 9/11, we used to say, turn off the TV, minimize the exposure for the little ones. And we still sort of want to do that, but this is an opportunity to talk to children and introduce them to what's happening. You can't assume that they don't know that this is happened. Oftentimes children hear it on the playground, maybe they're at a sporting event, a friend has been talking about it. We need to assume they know. And as adults, we need to put it into context for them and explain what's happened in a very age-appropriate way.
Now, let's say I've got a fairly young child, an elementary school child like those that are involved. How do I tell them, you don't have to be afraid? This is very unlikely to happen again where you are, and I want you to just go to school and try to have a normal day.
That is difficult for kids to say. I mean, my concern was that tomorrow morning kids would wake up and say, I don't want to go to school tomorrow. And that's happened.
Is that
we
okay?
found that in Sandy. Well, what I would say is ask them what they've heard. Always start with asking them a question. What do they know? What have they heard? The first thing you want to do is clarify any misconceptions they have. I had the great fortune of working with Mr. Rogers, who was one of my mentors early on in my career. And he always said, what's mentionable is manageable. Even with our little preschoolers, we talk to them about death and dying and the grief process and how they feel. But reassuring them is the most important thing. You reassure them about the safety, like you just talked about, and talk about who is there to keep them safe. Mom and dad, their teachers at school. I mean, look at all the brave teachers and school administrators. And as I was in the newsroom talking to the anchor or the reporter that was working today, she was going home to her little children. I mean, we all relate to that.
We do.
But I think we can't assure them that this will never happen to them, but we need to give them good advice, talk about their feelings, keep their structure in place, their schedules in place, but reassure them that we will be there to take care of them. Because in the egocentric world of a child, they really want to know who's going to be there to take care of me if something happens.
I hate to, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us. Hopefully this advice will be helpful to our parents. Megan?
President Joe Biden has called the shooting a family's worst nightmare. This morning's shooting, once again, putting gun reform in the spotlight. The president says it's time we do something to protect our schools.
We have to do more to stop gun violence. It's ripping our communities apart, ripping the soul of this nation, ripping at the very soul of the nation.
Well, the president is calling on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban to prevent another senseless attack on our children. And back out live in front of the school, people are showing up now, putting flowers at the entrance of the school. As you can tell, just heartbreaking to so many people in this community. So shocking. Scott?
Megan, thank you. We're going to leave you tonight with the knowledge that there are many vigils going on across our community. We have the information about times and locations on our website, fox17.com.
The Big Bang Theory. Tonight at 6 and 6:30 on Fox 17.
Receive breaking news alerts anytime.
I went food shopping at the supermarket. It had rained a lot. As I'm stepping into the place, I just slipped and went flying. I found out that I had a broken kneecap. Morgan & Morgan didn't accept the offer from the insurance company because it was not what I deserved. And I asked my attorney, I said, why would they even offer me that? And he said, because people take it. He says, we're not taking it. And we went to trial and the jury ruled in my favor. I would highly recommend them 100 times over.
You're gonna love this.
The X-Files plus Buffy equals the Buffy Files?
All right, guys.
The Vampire X-Slayers?
How do you like that?
No, X-Buffy the
It looks
File
like our
Slayers.
live
It equals
stream
awesomeness, okay?
from Nashville
It's a combo that
has
can't be
ended.
both Buffy, Mulder, and Scully kicking
Let
butt
me
and
see
saving the
here
world.
if I can
Time to
pull
fight the forces of evil, okay?
Always.
Buffy the Vampire
another stream
Slayer
here
and
that
the
we can
X-Files.
leave on there as a placeholder until we get back to 8 o'clock. Couple of hours, we'll be live with our full panel. We have a 4-person panel who will be here talking about this Nashville rampage killing, the trans killer. I don't think you will see a headline titled trans killer anywhere else on the internet except here on Legally Armed America or Thinktown podcast. That's just my guess. Let's see. Is this? Let me see if I can pull. Yeah, it's just glanced down and saw this as I try to pull this up. Yeah, man. Jabiri 308 says thanks for the live stream today. No, dude, thank y'all for watching. Because I don't do this if you guys aren't watching. Let me see if I can find this other link real quick. I'm just trying to re-energize this live link. Of this mentally deficient person who thought he was a girl or she thought he was a boy. Again, the jury is still out on that. I think it might have been settled so far, but I haven't settled it in my own head. I still don't know. Let me see if the live stream is on their local Fox broadcasting or if they're actually going to have something else that we can actually utilize. Man, it looks like. Apologize. Give me 1 second. A little hard sometimes. I don't know when to predict what these people are going to do with their streams. So I'm refreshing. This is Fox 17 out of Nashville, WZTV, out of Nashville, Tennessee, right down the road from where today's rampage killing took place. And they were kind enough to stream all day today, but it does not look like they're streaming live anymore. They're probably going to their normal programming right now, I would imagine. More than likely, the stupid little mainstream giggly sitcoms and stuff like that. That's part of the reason why people are so stupid and dumbed down today, because they are less concerned with watching something that has some real information being disseminated to them, and they'd rather go see who comes in third place on the 5th season of American Idol than any real information out there that could benefit them. Sorry to sound so cynical, but I don't have much confidence in the entertainment industry. And I can't click anything right now. Everything seems to be locked up on my computer. By the way, YouTube scuttled my entire stream. Here we go. Earlier, the other stream that we were watching, at one point we had over 1,000 people in the room watching. Yeah, they canned the entire thing. So that was a little frustrating, because I felt like a pretty good conversation going on. Uh-oh, I got another YouTube notification. These guys have been sending. No, that's not what it is. They've been sending me warnings today about my live stream, and then they just canned the whole thing. They shut the whole thing down. So let's see. Patience, my friends, as I try to revive some kind of live content so that you all can see it while I am preparing my food that I'm about to eat. All right, I don't need that. Let me get rid of that link. Yep. Apparently they're not going to that. So now let me go to the national. This looks like it's probably local programming now. So more than likely, we are not going to pick up another live stream coverage of this. Let me back out of here completely and see if anybody else. All right. Come on, man. Internet is ridiculously slow right now. Okay, here we go. And by the way, I mentioned earlier for you guys, if you had any links, to send me links on what this person was. You guys flooded my inbox, man. That's good. I appreciate that. My inbox is jam-packed full. And I want to take the time to look at a bunch of that stuff too before tonight's 8 o'clock Central Standard Time live stream. Let's see. Nashville shooting. Here we go. Live coverage. Yeah, I think this is all pre-recorded stuff. I don't think this is actually live. Let me go to this YouTube channel out of, it's an ABC affiliate. Looks like out of Nashville. I don't think this is a live
from our police and fire department. So this morning I was in Boston to see
her background.
The chief noted, as you said, that she identifies as transgender. They're not quite ready to talk about what, if any, role that played in the shooting. But obviously, the law that you just mentioned is on everyone's mind as a potential reason for what happened here. But clearly, this happening in the way that it unfolded with those children, the chief said too
overwhelmed at the thought of the loss of these families, of the future.
I'm going to leave this up,
lost
guys. This is
by these
pre-recorded
children
earlier.
and their families. And the leading cause of kids get death now is guns and gunfire.
Not true, Fatty.
And that is unacceptable. But I want to thank the fast response of our officers. Guns.
Let me kill this real quick.
Quick.
The audio on it. This guy is so stupid. Glassworks asks, is Tennessee constitutional carry? Actually, since 2021, I believe, I was reading this earlier on my other live stream, that I think in 2021 they passed constitutional carry. So they are, in fact, you can open carry or concealed carry without a permit. True permitless carry. So yeah, that's going to be attacked also. I saw earlier that there was a bill. Look, this is the guy that says, I'm going to try to screen record this. This is the person who said this was a boy identifying as a girl. I'm going to try to get to that question. Okay, here we go. I want to screen record this. Okay, that doesn't tell you anything. Hold on. Somebody will ask what the killer identifies as. The transgender identity is about to come up from this guy. I think it's the next question. Here we go. Here's the question. Yes. Listen. Here's the question. We know the mental illness. Okay. Did y'all get that? Let me kill that real quick.
Shooter has been.
All right. Sorry, guys. I did not have the audio going. That's my fault. We will replay this later. But here's your spot right here.
Police Chief John Drake of Nashville, who is briefing reporters on the deadly grade school shooting.
Later time, there is some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly,
There you go.
we'll let you know.
So was this a targeted attack?
It was.
Do we know about a transgender man or woman?
Don't know any history of mental illness at this time, but we are looking at that as the investigation is ongoing. And I'm sorry.
She identified as a transgender man or woman?
Woman.
See? That's what I've been
That
talking
is
about.
Police Chief John Drake of Nashville, who is briefing reporters on the deadly grade school shooting in Nashville at the Covenant School there this morning.
I want you guys to see that again.
Testo, we have some writings that we're going over that locally here.
I'm gonna play the Chiefs' whole.
Yeah.
Here you go.
There were like 2 officers that went in when they first got there. Do you know how many there was?
So it was 5 officers that immediately went in and addressed. We have video that we're going to release, but you can see in the video, you can hear gunfire going on as they're in the school. They address the threat and take that threat down.
Chief, what do we know about her weapon?
So we know there were 2 AR-style weapons, one a rifle, another was an AR-style pistol, and the other was a handgun.
AR-style pistol.
We believe
Told you.
2 of those
Gonna
may
have a
been
stabilizing
obtained
brace, I
legally,
guarantee you.
locally here.
Can you confirm that one of the adult victims, Catherine Christie, is head of the school?
Was what? There was some, I don't know her exact capacity within the school, but it was higher up in the echelon.
And were any of the children victims related to any of the school staff?
Unsure. I believe one may have been, but I can't confirm that.
Did the shooter have any criminal history at all?
No history at all.
And no motive at this point? Anything discovered in the apartment?
There's a motive.
House?
There's a motive.
No, we have a manifesto. We have some writings that we're going over that pertain to this day, the actual incident. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place. There's right now a theory of that we may be able to talk about later, but it's not confirmed, and so we'll put that out as soon as we can.
Is there any reason to believe that how she identifies?
I'm sorry, I knocked someone's mic over. I didn't hear you say that again, sir.
Is there any reason to believe that how she identifies has any motive for targeting the school?
We can give you that at a later time. There is some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly, we'll let you know.
So was this a targeted attack?
It was.
Do we know about a transgender man or woman?
Don't know any history of mental illness at this time. But we
Don't
are
know a
looking
history
at
of
that
mental
as the
illness.
investigation is ongoing.
As
I'm
a
sorry.
recent history.
Transgender man or woman?
Woman.
There you go. She.
That is Police Chief John Drake of Nashville, who is briefing.
She identifies as a transgender woman. According to that, it's a boy. We'll play this again at 8 o'clock. I want you guys, I'm going to leave this live stream on there so you guys have something to watch. We will be here at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time with our full panel. Chad Marino, Kendall Pruitt, and Miss Mackenzie Thorne will be joining us. You want to catch this one. This is going to be a good live stream. If you ever catch any of our Think Town podcasts, this is the one that you guys want to catch. So I will leave this up for the next, hour or so. I'll be back out here in about an hour. I got to eat some grub. Here's somebody's phone going off on the stream. But yeah, guys, this is going to be a good live stream. Hope to see you guys here shortly. Thanks, friends. We will see you very, very soon.
You step us through the preparation, the mindset.
Sorry, guys.
Of somebody who does this, this unimaginable evil that this person wanted to perpetrate on children, on innocent children. We do have a picture of one of the victims, 60-year-old Catherine Kuntz. Dr. Catherine Kuntz was the head of the Covenant School. She laid down her life for it, it sounds like. She was 60 years old, and that is, as I say, a Christian school there, and is among the 3 adults, including a custodian and apparently a substitute teacher who happened to be there that day, who died in this attack. And I want to go to Elizabeth Newman on that. We see teachers now called upon or stepping forward in these situations and taking fire. You know, there's a teacher shortage in this country, and maybe that's one of the reasons. It's now teaching children can be a high-risk occupation.
It's kind of gut-wrenching, isn't it? I mean, I went into the Homeland Security after 9/11, and I never actually went into the law enforcement or intelligence services where you're really putting your life on the line. But I knew a lot of the people that did, and they took that oath knowing that they were putting their life on the line, and that comes with it a certain amount of challenge and especially in the home front, pressure. But there are usually resources made available to help those that put their lives on the line manage the stress and the threat that you're dealing with. I don't know that we're doing that for teachers, and yet for 20 plus years, they have also been on the front lines protecting our most precious resources. And what you have to deal with in order to walk into the school every day, not only are you walking into the school knowing I might have to lay my life down for these kids, you also have to put on a brave face and do it in such a way that it doesn't scare the children. It is a remarkable thing that our teachers do in this country. And I feel like we could do better by them. Like they are putting their lives on the line for my children, for your children. Don't we owe them more than what we have been doing the last 20 years? And all we do is have the same cycle of fighting, or you're trying to take my guns away, or you're trying to, kill my kids. Like, I think we need to set aside the standard talking points and the standard scripts and recognize that everybody, except unless you're a maniac, everybody wants our kids to be safe. We just disagree on the how. If we could have rational conversations on the how, it makes progress. But calling each other names and questioning each other's motives, that doesn't help. And we just end up in a spiral and never get any progress or solutions, and our teachers deserve better.
That's for sure. And Brad, I want to go to you now. So an investigation like this going forward, the crime is concluded, the horror lingers in our hearts. What's the job? What are the next steps, and what's the purpose?
So the next steps are exactly what you would do if the shooter was still alive. You're going to do a thorough processing of the school, and maybe they'll get the FBI evidence response team to help them. That's up to Nashville. You'll do a thorough search of the residence of where she lived, conduct a lot of interviews, family, friends, associates, schoolmates, folks she attended social events with, people in her life. And then that same thing applies to obviously her social media profile, assuming she has one. Apparently there's a manifesto. It may give you additional leads, so that when you get done, you really have a detailed profile of her and what probably led her up to commit the act she committed today. Terry, your question is why? Is one primary reason is that, and this goes to a number of things Elizabeth has said, is that we still don't do a good job in stopping shooters. We do a lot of preliminary stuff. We target hardened schools. But the key is we don't do a good enough job protecting people And that's what has to change.
Absolutely, Brad. Thanks very much for that. We now have from police in Nashville a picture of the shooter, Audrey Hale, 28 years old. She was a former student at the Covenant School. Police Chief John Drake saying that Audrey Hale identified as a transgender person. She is the person who planned, mapped out, bought weapons for, or obtained weapons, I should say, and executed this school shooting at the school she once attended, the Christian school, the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to thank Brad Garrett and Elizabeth Newman for being with me. We'll be right back after this.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Right now in America, with so much at stake, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news.
You want to rebuild? We want to rebuild it. The community needs it. They get up and they go to church and they're retired and they come over here. And surely we can rebuild this thing.
It was Chris's dad, Bobby Joe Alford, who practically built this place, converting it from a dilapidated schoolhouse to a community center more than a decade ago.
Who's that guy right there?
That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Standing up on the stage.
Yeah.
The musician just wanted a place to play.
Do you want to start again?
Well, it's going to be a job.
I mean, the keys don't even work.
But it's the sentimental things left behind that bring hope.
A little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
There's hope there.
Like this piano, waterlogged, needing some work, but preserved for when it, like this community, can be rebuilt.
We certainly need those little glimmers of hope there. Jay O'Brien joins us now. Just so much devastation here, there. I know you got a chance to talk to some officials as well as the residents. What were they telling you?
One of the things that people keep telling us, Lindsay, is that there's really two phases here. There's
who said they wouldn't do it again if they knew that this judicial overhaul was going to be pushed.
And now they want to make us into a theocracy like Iran.
From the police department. So this morning I was in Boston to see my own son's sporting event, and now I am overwhelmed at the thought of the loss of these families. Future lost by these children and their families. And the leading cause of kids getting death now is guns and gunfire. And that is unacceptable. But I want to thank the fast response of our officers. Guns are quick. They don't give you much time. So even in a markedly fast response, there was not enough time. And those guns stole precious lives from us today in Nashville. And in this dark hour, let us support each other. Let us go and hug our children a little bit closer tonight. And thank you all for being here. And I want to ask Chief Drake to come and give us an update.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Again, thank you all for being here. Just update today's press conference. We've identified the shooter as Audrey Hale, 28-year-old female that lived in the Nashville area. We have investigations ongoing now at the residence on Brightwood Avenue. And we have made contact with the father that lived at that residence and are putting together more information. We've also detected there were maps drawn of the school in detail of surveillance, entry points, etc. We know and believe that entry was aimed through shooting through one of the doors is how they actually got into the school. I want to take the time to at least say, and I won't say the victims' names, I'll let Don say that. Out of 6 victims, 3 adults, 3 of those were children. 2 of them were age 9. 1 was 8, about to be 9. All the families have been contacted. The victims' families have been contacted as well. My thoughts and prayers go out to the family. When we send our kids to school or to any place of safety, we expect them to live, learn, have fun, and come back from that day's experience. We don't anticipate things like this. And I want to say thank you to our partners, to Chief Swan, to Glenn Fund, to our mayor for the support, to our federal partners. But also I want to say thank you to our first responders who got there and immediately went in to the threat of someone who had multiple of ammunition, prepared for a confrontation with law enforcement, prepared to do more harm than was actually done, and we were able to stop the threat, and unfortunately, 6 victims. So my thoughts and prayers again, but the praise go to the men and women. As I've said before, we will not wait. I was hoping this day would never ever come here in this city, but we would never wait to make entry and to go in and to stop a threat, especially when it deals with our children. So thank you. It's me, they're not saying anything.
I'm going to go over the victims' names with you now. The 3 9-year-olds who were killed: Evelyn Dickhouse, William Kenny, Hallie Scruggs. 3 adults: Mike Hill, a custodian, age 61, Cynthia Peak, to my understanding, a substitute teacher, age 61, and Catherine, age 60. As Chief Drake said, we have identified the active shooter as Audrey Elizabeth Hale, age 28. We'll take just a few questions if you have any.
John, do we believe that she was a former student at the school?
Yes, we do. Chief, you want to address that?
Yes, so our investigations tell us that she was a former student at the school. I don't know what grade she's attended or grades, but we do firmly believe she's a student there.
She identifies.
She does identify as transgender, yes.
Is there any reason to believe the shooter first went to the church before going to the school?
I can't give you that information. I wasn't sure. We know that the minute the calls came in, we responded to the church, so to the school. Yeah. So it was 5 officers that immediately went in and addressed. We have video that we're going to release, but you can see in the video, you can hear gunfire going on as they're in the school, the threat, and take that threat down.
What do we know about her weapon?
So we know there were 2 AR-style weapons, one a rifle, another was an AR-style pistol, and the other was a handgun. We believe 2 of those may have been obtained legally, locally here.
Can you confirm that one of the adult victims, Catherine, was head of the school?
Was what? There was some, I don't know her exact capacity within the school, but it was higher up in the echelon.
And were any of the children victims related to any of the attacks?
Unsure. I believe one may have been, but I can't confirm that.
Did the shooter have any criminal history?
No history at all.
And no motive at this point? Anything discovered in the apartment or house?
No, we have a manifesto. We have some writings that we're going over that pertain to this day, the actual incident. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place. There's right now a theory of that we may be able to talk about later, but it's not confirmed, and so we'll put that out as soon as we can.
Is there any reason to believe that how she identifies?
I'm sorry, I knocked someone's mic over. I didn't hear you say that again, sir.
Is there any reason to believe that how she identifies has any motive for targeting the school?
We can give you that at a later time. There is some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly, we'll let you know.
So was this a targeted attack?
It was.
Do we know about a transgender man or woman?
Don't know any history of mental illness at this time, but we are looking at that as the investigation is ongoing. And I'm sorry.
She identified as a transgender man or woman?
Woman.
Was it the only school that was targeted?
All right, that is Police Chief John Drake of Nashville, who is briefing reporters on the deadly grade school shooting in Nashville at the Covenant School there this morning. The police confirming 6 dead, 3 children, 1 8 years old, 2 9 years old, and 3 adults, including Catherine Kuntz, who is the head of the Covenant School. The police chief also said that the shooter has been identified as 28-year-old female Audrey Hale. Said she's a former student of the school, and confirmed that Audrey Hale was identified herself as a transgender person. State of Tennessee earlier this month passed and the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors, as well as a law that prohibited adult entertainment, including male and female impersonators, after a series of drag show controversies in that state. Once again, the shooter, Audrey Hale, 28 years old, identified as transgender female. Mayor John Cooper of Nashville spoke for many when he said he's overwhelmed by the loss at the Covenant School this morning. I want to bring in our Justice Department correspondent, Pierre Thomas, who has covered so many of these shootings. And this now, while the police chief specifically said they're investigating motive, this is a highly unusual crime in so many ways, a tragedy that now involves what may be this boiling controversy across the country around transgender health care.
Terry, devastating situation. I think one of the things that struck me about his press briefing is that he made it very clear that this was a premeditated mass shooting, that the shooter had maps of the school, that the shooter had done surveillance of the school, shot through the door to get into the school. So this was a person who clearly had been planning this, intended to kill those people, and he, in emphasizing how quickly the officers acted, laid out that this could have been so much worse, and it's clearly a horrible situation that we saw unfold. The information, they have a lot of information. The fact that they found a manifesto, writings of this person, as we predicted, there would likely be something that would point to the why in this case. Also, that they are doing a search, looking at the social media footprint of this person. A lot more to unfold, but clearly the fact that the person has been identified, we don't know yet the exact role that transgender played in it. Clearly, it's unusual to have a case like this. Also, he pointed out the firepower, assault-style rifle, assault-style pistol, handgun, lots of ammunition. Devastating day that could have been much worse.
All right, let's go to Brad Garrett, a former FBI agent who is frequently with us on these shootings. Unfortunately, Brad, a very rapid response clearly by law enforcement probably saved lives.
Oh, there is no doubt about that. Since we've moved in the last 30 years from waiting outside schools to literally going in seconds after we hear it, once we get to the school, 3 could have been a lot larger number today. 3 is obviously too many children dying, but because they went in and they followed the shots to the second floor, it saved, who knows, countless lives.
All right. Brad Garrett, Pierre Thomas, thank you very much. Once again, 6 killed there at the Covenant School in Nashville As Mayor Cooper said, this is an overwhelming loss. He also noted that guns are the leading cause of death among America's children. There will be much more on this story. David Muir on World News Tonight is reporting from the tornado zone in Mississippi, the deadly tornadoes there. He'll have much more on that story as well. And this, I'm Terry Moran. We return you now to our regular programming.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
What's good to watch, read? Where can I get a great deal on what I'm just dying to buy? Oh, it's all right here. GMA Life. Get the latest celebrity buzz, deals and steals, and the coolest lifestyle tips from GMA.
I love that so much.
Streaming weekends on ABC News Live.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! Is this mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right, they don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day. I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good. Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
Yes. So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do?
Hey, I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
What does it take to be America's #1 news? It takes asking the straightforward, tough questions.
Do you believe that Donald Trump should ever be president again?
How would your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I can't imagine what it feels like to go from $20 billion to $100,000.
Yeah.
Are you worried about going to jail?
You write that you had low-grade depression. How'd you get out of that?
The news-making interviews.
You said that there were 6 friends. One of them was sick.
Yeah.
Do you have future political aspirations?
Going to the front line
The search for survivors. How does this war end?
and getting to the heart of the story.
Thank you for being here.
We'll be here for the long run.
ABC News, #1 in the morning, the #1 newscast, #1 in daytime talk, Friday nights, Sunday mornings versus the competition, and the #1 streaming news. Thank you for making ABC News America's trusted, straightforward first choice. America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news, free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the right now. But a nationwide teacher shortage.
The right now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning, America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
Good afternoon. Our breaking news coverage continues now on ABC News Live after officials in Nashville, Tennessee, just briefed the press on that deadly school shooting that police say left 3 students and 3 staffers dead, along with the 28-year-old shooter. The students who were killed, 8-year-old William Kinney, 9-year-old Evelyn Dickhouse, and 9-year-old Hallie Scruggs. The adults killed 61-year-old Mike Hill. He was a custodian at the school. 61-year-old Cynthia Peak. She was apparently a substitute teacher. And 60-year-old Catherine Kuntz. She was the head of the Covenant School. Police in Nashville there saying that the shooter, Audrey Hale, had identified as transgender and was a former student at that school. And it may also be worth noting that the state of Tennessee, at the beginning of this month, passed, the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors, as well as put limits on drag shows in that state for minors. And we want to bring in now on this fast-moving story, ABC News Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas. So, Pierre, I wonder if I can just ask you once again, you know, as you look at the pieces of the picture coming together, what do you see?
Well, the thing that stuck out at the press conference, Terry, is the notion that police know so much more, that this was premeditated, that there's a manifesto, some writings that they're focusing on now, that they found maps of the school, that there's evidence that there had been surveillance of the school. So the fact that this was premeditated, not some spontaneous thing that happened at that school is devastating news to hear, chilling news to hear, quite frankly. The fact that they are identifying the shooter, they have a name, they're doing a deep dive on her background. The chief noted, as you said, that she identifies as transgender. They're not quite ready to talk about what, if any, role that played in the shooting. But obviously, the law that you just mentioned is on everyone's mind as a potential reason for what happened here. But clearly, this happening in the way that it unfolded with those children, the chief said 2 9-year-olds and an 8-year-old who was about to turn 9 dead, 3 members of the staff killed. Just those images of those children being let out of the school. Unfortunately, this is something that is now happening across the board, with mass shootings being of the level and the nature that we're seeing, 128 so far this year. Sadly, death came to that small town church and a school that only had 200 and some odd students.
As Police Chief John Drake said, they said, when we send our kids to school, we expect them to go there and learn and come back safe. And more, as you know so well, Pierre, that doesn't happen. You know, schools, they lock down, they do drills. Our children are aware that they essentially live in a combat zone when they're in American schools, or any school could become one, let's put it that way. And I do want to get to the police response here in Nashville. It seems to me that the officials there are pointedly noting the rapidity of the response, the way they engaged. They didn't pause. They went to engage the shooter when they heard the gunfire on the second floor. I think they're drawing a sharp contrast with the response in Uvalde, Texas. And it probably did save lives.
Terry, there's no doubt about it. And you have to look at what happened in Uvalde as perhaps an aberration. Since about 20 years ago, and I think Brad Garrett will confirm this, law enforcement has had the attitude and been training that patrolmen, whoever gets to the scene who has a gun, must go in and confront the shooter, period, full stop. And many people say that what happened in Uvalde was not only tragic, but just beyond irresponsible. Some have used the word cowardly as well, that you cannot leave babies, children, at the mercy of a shooter for any period of time, that you must engage and you must continue to engage to save lives. The chief pointedly said that the person was armed with 2 assault-style weapons, a rifle and an assault-style pistol and a handgun, had significant amounts of ammunition. And again, the fact that this person came hell-bent on killing people meant that if they did not stop the shooter, that person would have probably continued to shoot. So that response, the fact that the chief has pointedly been signaling that this was the intent, that he hoped that this would never, ever happen in his city, but that if it did, this was his expectation, that the officers must go and respond. And clearly that message had gotten through.
Let's bring in Elizabeth Newman, who's former official at the Department of Homeland Security and ABC News consultant on these stories and others. And Elizabeth, I want to note that Police Chief John Drake was asked after he had identified the shooter, Aubrey Hale, 28 years old, a former student at the Covenant School. He says that she identified as transgender. He was asked if that had anything to do with the motive in this case. And he says, we're working on that. We don't have anything on that. And yet this is a very intense political discussion right now. Tennessee having passed this law that bans transgender medical care for minors. And aside from the politics of it, it seems like there are so many possible motives for this to occur in our country. Mental illness, now perhaps political violence. We've seen just rank hatred in the shootings of synagogues and racist shootings. Seems like everyone with a grievance heads to school to kill children.
We know about most mass attackers is there's usually multiple threads of grievance. It's not just one thing. Usually there might have been something in the background that makes you cognitively open to ideologies that suggest that violence is the solution to your problems. Clearly there's an aspect of personal connection here. The individual went to that school at some point. We don't know if there was a motivation against one specific individual, if it was just the beliefs that school holds. That school is a PCA school. It is a conservative, Orthodox, Christian approach to gender and to marriage. So we don't know if that is a part of the challenge here. We don't know if perhaps the real focus was, as you suggested, what has been going on in the state of Tennessee. And this was just an easy target of opportunity because she was familiar with it. That's what the investigators are digging into. And sadly, sometimes we get so fixated on the motive because we really want to know why. We just, it's so hard for us to understand how somebody could be just so lost that they think they should take the lives of third graders. So we're like desperate to know why. And I understand that human instinct. The need though is for us to be recognizing that this individual had a series of things that were signs and indicators that they were not well. I mean, if you have detailed maps, if you have a manifesto, somebody in their life probably knew something was off. And we don't know yet if anybody made a phone call or tried to get them help. Like, we still need to see what else may have happened in the lead up to this event. But the answer is not in trying to pinpoint the ideology or the motive. The answer really is about figuring out how to identify people before they're about to act violently and get them help. Intervene. Let's manage their threat level. Let's manage them and get them help well before we start losing kids. And we just, this happens too much. We've got to find a better way forward.
And the mayor of Nashville, thank you, Elizabeth, John Cooper, spoke briefly at the top of the briefing that Nashville officials held, and he voiced just that sense of, as he put it, overwhelming loss. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
But let us love each other and support each other and hug each other and pray. But let us love each other and support each other and hug each other and pray for each other and pray for our families. But also let us praise our first responders. 14 minutes, I believe under fire, running to gunfire. And then I want to thank the seamless response for federal and state authorities from our police and fire department.
Overwhelmed by loss is what the mayor said he is today, as is any decent person, given the slaughter of innocents here, the killing of these 3 children in Nashville. And let me go back to Elizabeth on that. The motive, as you say, maybe secondary to the things that we can practically do, because people are going to have all kinds of motives. But it's the appalling, the horror of killing children that they want to inflict on not just the children and their families, but on the society, because we cherish children. And yet we continue to harden schools. Our children continue to do these drills. They live under the shadow of a potential attack in every American school. There's no place that's immune from this. Is there more that we can do to protect children, no matter what the motive of a monstrous killer heading for their school door might be?
I do think that there's more we can do. I said earlier today that I really don't think I would love for Washington, D.C. to become responsible and for Congress to actually pass laws that start to address some of the underlying vulnerabilities in our society, including gun control and more resources for prevention. I don't have much hope that Congress is going to act. And kudos to those who try to keep making them act. I mean, that's a very difficult task. I do think, though, that at a state level, I think governors, I think state legislatures can do more. I think they can pass with less challenge common sense gun reform. I think that we can be investing in a prevention apparatus. Every state needs a prevention strategy, and there are a number of states that are working on this. And once they have those strategies, they need to fund it, they need to invest in it, and they need to be in it for the long haul. Like, this is a decade at least of building out the infrastructure necessary to identify individuals that are having difficulty, getting them help through mental health and behavioral health professionals, and making sure that we have referral systems and threat management capability in every community. We need to be doing it in the online space too. In my day job, I work for a tech company that works to intervene online. Most people are finding those radicalizing ideologies in the online space. We need to intervene before they even see those ideologies, or if they are seeing those ideologies, offer alternative solutions. There are things that are working, we're just not scaling it. So we need to scale it up, and we need to make this a priority in our country. And we haven't even talked about gun control. There's any number of things that could be done at a state level that would make it more difficult to obtain weapons, particularly for those who are showing indications that they're not well, that they're ideating violence. And red flag laws are a key piece of that. But we also need to make sure we're implementing red flag laws. We've had a number of incidents recently where a state actually has a red flag law, but law enforcement, the courts, and various people in society aren't either aware of those resources or don't know how to use those resources. So we need to not just pass laws, we need to implement, and we need to scale. This is a societal problem, and we the people need to hold our state officials accountable for addressing it.
And Elizabeth, thank you. Those are practical, pragmatic things that can be done to protect our children, protect ourselves. As the police said, that this was a targeted attack. Police have described it as a targeted attack at a Christian school. Synagogues have been attacked before by mass shooters. Churches have as well. And the police are describing this as a targeted attack. Let's go to Police Chief John Drake for just a brief summary of what the police know about the preparation that Audrey Hale, the 28-year-old shooter in this case, apparently engaged in before committing these atrocities.
We've also determined there were maps drawn of the school in detail of surveillance, entry points, etc. We know and believe that entry was gained through shooting through one of the doors is how they actually got into the school.
All right, let's go to Brad Garrett now, who was with the FBI for many years, an ABC News consultant, and I understand, Brad, with the FBI, at least for a time, at the Nashville field office. And I just want you to kind of react to what Police Chief John Drake has told us about what they know this shooter was doing in preparation for this attack.
So, Terry, you have to sort of start with that mass shooters, when they are building up to commit this mass shooting, is the high point of their life. And they have built up enough anger, revenge, resentment, and they start to then externalize all that anger and rage. It's everyone else's fault that I'm in the state that I'm in, of why I feel powerless and why I've been kept from getting a job or whatever it might be. that school represented something to this shooter. Did she get bullied there? Did she have issues there with staff? We'll know that in fairly short order. But that school represented something to her, just like in the Sandy Hook shooting, that school, Adam Lanza looked at it the same way. He was older and went back to an elementary school. So you have to sort of start there. And so when they finally decide they're going to do this, there can be a lot of planning. The chief mentioned it. There's a manifesto. There are maps of the school. If she was a student there, she knows where the exits and entrances are and maybe the best door to go through to get in. So as she then puts this together and goes apparently to a side door, shoots the locks, goes inside, her goal is to probably kill as many people as she can, including children. And they're not human to her. They represent something bad that's happened to her. Totally illogical, makes no sense, of course, to the rest of us, but I'm just putting you through the eyes of a shooter. And if the police had not gotten there when they did, we sadly would be talking about a lot bigger numbers today.
The police really did respond, but it is chilling, Brad, to hear you step us through the preparation, the mindset of somebody who does this, this unimaginable evil that this person wanted to perpetrate on children, on innocent children. We do have a picture of one of the victims, 60-year-old Catherine Kuntz. Dr. Catherine Kuntz was the head of the Covenant School. She laid down her life for it sounds like. She was 60 years old, and that is, as I say, a Christian school there. And is among the 3 adults, including a custodian and apparently a substitute teacher who happened to be there that day, who died in this attack. And I want to go to Elizabeth Newman on that. We see teachers now called upon or stepping forward in these situations and taking fire. You know, there's a teacher shortage in this country, and maybe that's one of the reasons. It's now teaching children can be a high-risk occupation.
It's kind of gut-wrenching, isn't it? I mean, I went into the Homeland Security field after 9/11, and I never actually went into the law enforcement or intelligence services where you're really putting your life on the line. But I knew a lot of the people that did, and they took that oath knowing that they were putting their life on the line. And that comes with it a certain amount of challenge and especially in the home front, pressure. But there are usually resources made available to help those that put their lives on the line manage the stress and the threat that you're dealing with. I don't know that we're doing that for teachers. And yet for 20 plus years, they have also been on the front lines protecting our most precious resources. And what you have to deal with in order to walk into the school every day, not only are you walking into the school knowing I might have to lay my life down for these kids, you also have to put on a brave face and do it in such a way that it doesn't scare the children. It is a remarkable thing that our teachers do in this country. And I feel like we could do better by them. Like they are putting their lives on the line for my children, for your children. Don't we owe them more than what we have been doing the last 20 years? And all we do is have the same cycle of fighting over, you're trying to take my guns away, or you're trying to, kill my kids. I think we need to set aside the standard talking points and the standard scripts and recognize that everybody, except unless you're a maniac, everybody wants our kids to be safe. We just disagree on the how. If we could have rational conversations on the how, we might make some progress. But calling each other names and questioning each other's motives, that doesn't help. And we just end up in this spiral and never get any progress or solutions. And our teachers deserve better.
That's for sure. And Brad, I want to go to you now. An investigation like this going forward, The crime is concluded. The horror lingers in our hearts. What's the job? What are the next steps, and what's the purpose?
So the next steps are exactly what you would do if the shooter was still alive. You're going to do a thorough processing of the school, and maybe they'll get the FBI evidence response team to help them. That's up to Nashville. You'll do a thorough search of the residence of where she lived, conduct a lot of interviews, family, friends, associates, schoolmates, folks she attended social events with, people in her life. And then that same thing applies to obviously her social media profile, assuming she has one. Apparently there's a manifesto. It may give you additional leads, so that when you get done, you really have a detailed profile of her and what probably led her up to commit the act she committed today. Terry, your question is why? Is one primary reason is that, and this goes to a number of things Elizabeth has said, is that we still don't do a good job in stopping shooters. We do a lot of preliminary stuff. We target hardened schools. But the key is we don't do a good enough job protecting people. And that's what has to change.
Absolutely, Brad. Thanks very much for that. We now have from police in Nashville a picture of the shooter, Audrey Hale, 28 years old. She was a former student at the Covenant School. Police Chief John Drake saying that Audrey Hale identified as a transgender person. She is the person who planned, mapped out, bought weapons for, or obtained weapons, I should say, and executed this school shooting at the school she once attended, the Christian school, the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to thank Brad Garrett and Elizabeth Newman for being with me. We'll be right back after this.
With so much at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Right now in America, with so much at stake, thank you for making ABC's This Week America's #1 news and
Would You Do Marathon, 2 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
One final note here tonight from us here in Rolling Fork. We introduced you to Curtis Macon a few minutes ago. I had the pleasure to speak with him earlier this afternoon. He lost his entire business, his livelihood, but he was so clearly trying to take it all in stride. He told us that sometimes you have to laugh in order to keep from crying. He was so thankful that he and his wife had made it out alive, but so profoundly pained that so many of his friends did not. While the buildings can, of course, be rebuilt, it's the lives that have been shattered that we are thinking about tonight. Time may heal some wounds here. Others could last a lifetime. Our thoughts are certainly with Curtis and the entire Rolling Fork community tonight, who desperately need our help, and they're asking for our prayers. That is our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis reporting in from Rolling Fork, Mississippi. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. You can always find us on Hulu, the ABC News app, and of course on abcnews.com. Have a great night. This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine,
Close to the front line.
from the capital, destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5. Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
What is artificial intelligence? That kind of rocked my world for a little bit.
It's 100 times more powerful than even the social media.
Does it have a soul?
This is about our vulnerability.
It feels like she's a real person when I talk to her.
What was it like saying I love you for the first time? You describe actually getting intimate and how amazing it felt for you.
Yeah.
The AI Revolution. Impact by Nightline. Now streaming on Hulu.
With so much happening these days, it's hard to keep up.
Things change hour by hour, minute by minute.
The historic weather that's now unfolding.
The worries on Wall Street.
We're bringing you the Right Now. That a nationwide teacher shortage.
The Right Now look at the day ahead. An alert this morning for dog owners and the key takeaways from the biggest stories.
World News Now and America This Morning. America's #1 early morning news.
Today does feel a little different. Early mornings on ABC News Live.
You never know what you're going to get on this show. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yes, Whoopi! This mic on? Can you hear me out there?
Behind the scenes is always a better show.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
That's what people don't see during the commercial break.
Right. They don't.
What happened?
I had no idea really what I was getting myself into.
That day that we walked out, I treasured that day. I couldn't sit there.
You're doing good, Joy. You're doing good. Oh, yeah, baby.
It was crazy.
Behind the Table. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Brooke Shields, the most photographed woman in the world.
Iconic American beauty.
A sexualized child model.
Exploitation.
Vulnerable. She was catapulted into the world of adult sexuality.
I'm amazed that I survived any of it.
What happened to her isn't really about her, it's just about women.
I was just born with this face. I wanted to think about the things that could have happened without beauty.
Reporting from Denver, I'm Mola Lengi. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
This is Nightline.
The war in Iraq 20 years later. The stated objective to remove Saddam Hussein, free his people from dictatorship, and destroy alleged weapons of mass destruction. At first, more than 70% of Americans supported it. But that waned as the mission became mired in controversy, eventually falling to just 32%. Saddam was eventually captured 9 months into the invasion, but the war raged on for 8 years, killing hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians and more than 4,000 U.S. military forces. Weapons of mass destruction were never found, leading to allegations of faulty intelligence and misinformation. The war ultimately costing American taxpayers $2 trillion. ABC News was there when a Marine battalion shipped out to fight this war, witnessing traumatic moments along the way. While public perception of the war has evolved over time, the scars of those who fought it remain. These are some of their stories. We warn you this includes discussions of suicide and may be difficult for some.
20 minutes, folks. You have about 20 minutes for your goodbyes. Contact!
They were part of the initial 100,000 U.S. troops shipped out to Kuwait. The 206th Marines of Fox 25 Company from Camp Pendleton, California, barely adults back then.
Well, everybody's ready to go. I could be with a better team.
Preparing for the invasion of Iraq in March 2003, launched as part of the war on terror.
We will tear down the apparatus of terror, and we will help you to build a new Iraq that is prosperous and free.
From training for combat to battling their way towards Baghdad, ABC News documenting every step of Fox 25's journey into the unknown, holding true to their slogan, the few, the proud.
We had driven right into an ambush.
Suffering the ultimate loss along the way.
Keep it going, First Sergeant. Keep it going, big guy. Keep it going.
He has a pulse. It's kind of getting weak.
20 years ago, their mission in Kuwait was off to a slow start, standing by for official orders.
Hey, we're all out here together. We're all going to kick together, right?
21-year-old Lance Corporal Josh Heisel performing at a military talent show.
I still just remember it being this one evening for a minute because it was such a good time that you almost forgot.
Thanks a lot, Fox. Thanks, everybody else.
21-year-old Corporal Michael Elling reading a book his mother had slipped in his pack.
It's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Simple ways to keep yourself cool in stressful times. And I figured
The next few months of my life will probably be the most stressful times I've ever endured.
I have empathy for that kid that I see that just wanted to serve his country and didn't know the ramifications of that.
And 32-year-old Captain Terry Johnson, with no prior battlefield experience, the measured and steady commander of Fox 25.
If you've never been to combat and you haven't experienced it, you don't know how things are going to go.
War is a very serious undertaking, and it has consequences. 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines.
All these years later, still Semper Fi, always faithful.
Do you believe America's involvement in Iraq was worth the price that was paid?
I think it was worth it. Clearly, Saddam was a bad individual, was a dictator of classic proportions, was extremely brutal to his people.
But even faith can erode with time.
The war took a big toll on my life. The military and war threw me into the deep end.
I have all this gear on and all this cool stuff on.
The young Marines, now full adults, once again sharing their journeys. Captain Johnson completed many more deployments in Iraq.
It's never been a job. It's always been very natural. I'm very grateful for this profession.
Corporal Heisel finished one more deployment, leaving 2 weeks after his wife gave birth to their first child.
I always had a certain amount of guilt while I was over there for being there at all, for leaving my ride or die lady back here with the kid, you know, and going and doing this.
Though he still plays his guitar, the tune is different.
I was staring. Once you start to question why you're there, you can't stop doing it. Every mission, everything we did, kicking doors in, disrupting people's lives, bagging people's heads, bagging a dude's head and dragging him out of a house while his kids are standing there screaming. For what? What are we doing?
Corporal Elliott, now father to a young daughter, still keeps that copy of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
The solution is to notice what's happening in your head.
The book's message guiding him long after combat.
I've had a few low points in my journey of just wellness and healing since getting out of the Marines. That journey include getting a DUI at some point. I was feeling just so low and disconnected. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who I had no identity other than Marine.
Upon returning from Iraq, he retired his Marine uniform.
I chose to discharge. I did not want to go back to war. My experience in Iraq just involved witnessing suffering after suffering. How do I have meaning in my life when I felt really powerless in Iraq? I felt trapped.
They're engaging at 10 o'clock. Watch out!
Even after all this time, that suffering is never distant. April 4th, another anniversary seared in their minds.
First Sergeant Ed Smith was a leader that I admire, and I'm trying to model being a father after the way he looked after his Marines. He was more concerned about having everybody come home.
We came out with 206. I want to go home with 206.
For First Sergeant Ed Smith, there weren't supposed to be any more deployments. His retirement papers had been submitted. But when the war started, he put that discharge on hold.
Fox Company has been training very hard. Our motivation has been there.
The unit had been making their way towards Baghdad when they were suddenly caught in heavy fire.
All the elements of war were present. It was a hellacious day.
Fox 25 forced to stop right next to an ammunition dump, going up in flames.
Get past it! Don't stop! Get past it! Get past it!
We're all standing up, exposed. He made the call to have everybody get back in the vehicles. And that selfless act is what put himself in danger. And he had been hit in the head by shrapnel. And it rendered him pretty much lifeless.
Keep it going, First Sergeant!
First Sergeant Smith became one of the 4,000 U.S. military to die in combat in Iraq.
We just, all of us just...
From our police and fire. From our police and fire department.
You kill that.
Got a couple of things we're getting ready for before we get things kicked off here. The Think Town podcast. We got about, it looks like about 20 minutes before we go live. Let me send some links to the rest of our friends who will be joining us. And I'll pull some of our links up on stuff that I want to make sure that we go over. Thank you guys for being here, staying here. And this is going to be a good episode tonight. Really good. My lighting will be better, by the way. This is just now while I do a little bit of searching to not have that light in my face the whole time. Coverage. Let's see. God, I have way too many ads running on everything. Jeez. All right, guys, we got about 15 minutes. Just trying to find some links here that we can share to everyone. We are going to do something pretty special tonight. We're actually going to allow viewers to be guests on the show tonight. So hopefully some of you guys out there will be the lucky people that come on the show. Probably about a good 15, 20 minutes into the show, we'll start that. Not a good link there. Showing you guys all the links that I'm searching right now to try to find a little more information on this story. As you can see, I'm at the Tennessean website right now. I try to get local affiliates a lot of times because you generally will get better information from them. They're boots on the ground, kind of on the scene kind of stuff. Updates on Covenant school shootings, nothing. Gosh. Not sure if you guys can see this. Let me back that up. Let's see. So I could get this a little bit bigger. Oh, come on. Curtis says, Paul's on the turntable researching. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I'm busting out some rhymes. Waiting on Chad to come backstage and we'll be all set. Yeah, Jack, I figured we'd throw some tunes in there whenever we're getting close to kicking off. Let everybody know when they start hearing tunes that we're getting that ready to drop the hammer. Jackson says, so how was it staying with Crumpy and Rich? I hear Rich snores incredibly loud. According to John, Rich does snore incredibly loud. Luckily, the room that I was in, I bring a little noisemaker because I have tinnitus in my left ear really bad. So I bring something that makes noise and I crank it up. So I don't care what those guys were doing, snoring or anything like that. I didn't hear anything. So I cannot confirm that other than what John said. But yeah, staying with John and Rich was cool. They're good guys, good friends of mine, and definitely enjoyed the visit down in South Carolina. Guys, again, as I stated a few minutes ago, we're going to do something a little bit new tonight. We're going to actually have guests on. So anyone that is interested in being literally a video guest on here, get ready because we'll be wanting to include you guys in the show. We'll probably about 15-20 minutes into the show, we'll do that. We'll do kind of like a casting call for folks that want to come on here and say what they think about the Nashville shooting today. Before that, we'll all kind of do our thing and give you our take on it. Five-seater macrophallus. Let me we'll bring Chad in here and we'll let you know how you'll do that. Let me let's see, bring everybody in here. And let me get rid of this banner. And well, we're live, so we may as well get rolling. Let's unofficially kind of kick this thing off. Let me get rid of the music. All right, guys. Of course, we're here. Let me get my light. Of course, you know me, Paul Glasgow. You know Chad Marino, Mackenzie Thorne, and Kendall Pruitt. We are all here to join you guys and talk about what you guys, a lot of you have been with me most of the day today, but we're going to recap and see if we can't get close to that 2,000 live member mark that we had earlier today. We had a pretty saucy show today going over this Nashville shooting, and I think everybody's kind of been digesting a lot of what we've got going on here. Before I get into all the details and get our panel to start talking about their thoughts on this, Chad, what's going to be the method to get people to come on here live? Because we've already got people asking what they need to do.
I'm going to have a link. We'll put up a link. It's going to be a link to a Zoom meeting. It'll actually kick off. It'll be available around 8:15. I'll post the link on. You can join the room. It's going to put you in the waiting room, and you'll be auto muted. I'll kind of call everybody in. As I think we're going to use the chat room, the chat area, for people to post questions. That'd probably be the easiest way. Post your question in there. When I read it, I may unmute you and talk to you or chat back with you and say, hey, I'm going to bring you on, and we'll bring them on one at a time. So the room in general will be muted. You won't be able to talk to really anybody else. It's really just to get people into our feed and into the system for audio, and we'll be able to bring you on air.
Okay. All right.
It's our first time trying this, so I think your first one should be fun.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to definitely bear with us on this because we may.
I think we'll get it though.
I think it'll work out good too. Obviously, between Zoom and StreamYard, they've ironed out all the bugs. So, let me jump right into it, guys. And again, Chad, any kind of links that you want to post up as we're talking about this, and if you want to take mine down, I want mine to be there so that we can. This is kind of like an argument that we've had all day today that we'll get to shortly. That this might be confirmation. Again, might be, because I've heard conflicting stories all day today. When somebody says somebody is transgendered, I don't know.
Transgendered?
Transgendered.
Do they have red hair?
Transgender means that they're a red something.
Natural red.
So Audrey Elizabeth Hale, who is the trans killer, they say is a transgender man who was assigned female at birth. The doctor assigned female. I guess that was something that was forced upon this person. So that tells me that we're dealing with a biological female. And in my eyes, we're dealing with just a female, because you cannot you can't reclaim whatever identity you want. So that's why I put this up there, Chad. If you want to swap that out, that's fine. But I was really searching for something in words that spelled it out, because we've been debating all day long. Because when you look at the pictures of the trans killer, man, it could be a girl or a boy. You look at him, you're like, man, look like you fit in both boxes, no pun intended. So the shooting took place at the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee. Reportedly about 10:13, I think, to be more specific. 5 shots rang out. This is coming from a neighbor that was in the area. Not long after, later, more shots rang out, and then a SWAT team was on site. Sounds like a SWAT team was on site, I believe I read, in 14 minutes, which is long enough to mow down a whole bunch more people, but still better reaction time than the 79 minutes in Uvalde, Texas. The claims are that this is a female. Earlier, they thought it was a teenager. The claim is that 2 assault type rifles, and I'm using that as in quotes because that's the quote that they made, but 2 assault style or assault type rifles, that's the lingo being thrown around, and a handgun were used. This person was a former student of this school. This person was 28 years old. Again, they thought it was a teenager at first, but later on realized that they were 28. 3 students, unfortunately, were killed. 3 9-year-old students. And my son is 14, and I know all of you guys have kids. So I think it's really easy for us to picture our own children being in this type of scenario when we see something like this. It's very easy to relate to this. 3 adults were also killed. 1 was a janitor. 1 was a substitute teacher. How horrible that is. What a day to be in there teaching. And another, I think, was a school administrator. This was a private school, of course, a private Christian school. There were no SROs on site, school resource officers on site. At first, there were some claims that the local officials, believe it or not, said that there were no school resource officers simply because this is a private school, and that's not true. At my son's school, which is a private school here in Louisiana, we actually hire a school resource officer from the sheriff's department, which is the same place that normally would send them to a public school. So public schools have them at no charge to the school. The taxpayer picks up that. But if a private school wants to hire a sheriff's department SRO, the school themselves pay for that. And I think we pay about $58,000 for one resource officer at my son's school. This was a school of pre-K to 6th grade. So we had roughly from 4-year-olds to 11-year-olds. The original claim was that this person came in through an unlocked side door. The story seemed to have changed a little bit over time, because now they're saying that this person shot out the window, reached in and unlocked the door. I don't know about that. Kind of wonder if maybe somebody's just trying to save face to make it sound like the school was kind of locked up, but it does not appear that the school was locked up. I think, again, that's probably a correction they made to try to make the parents feel better that this school might have been some kind of maintained from a security standpoint. Came in through the first floor, went to the second floor, and that's where they killed all 6 people, 3 adults and the 3 children. They had detailed maps drawn of the entire area, this person did. And it was a targeted school. They intended to go to this specific school and to this specific location based on the maps. They also have a manifesto that they have not released yet that this trans killer released or had at their house. Let me make sure that I cover everything that I had written down. I can't confirm this, but somebody in the comment section earlier today said that Tennessee was voting on a bill in the Tennessee State House today on lowering the age to buy firearms to 18. So kind of a coincidental odd timing there. The debate, again, was that this person, some people said it was a boy a real boy with junk that thought he was a girl. Others are saying that it's a girl who thinks they're a boy. That's why I put this up there, because it does appear that this was a girl that was confused and mentally unstable and thought that she was a boy. So I'm going to go with that for now. And I have several reasons for thinking that. We'll get more into that discussion later. I'm just going to start at the bottom. Kendall, what do you think? Give me your thoughts on this.
Man, it's hard to think about. And it kind of chokes you up, because, my daughter just turned 10, and man, it's the last thing that you won't even think about is dropping, your kids off like we do every single morning, and her not coming home. Man, it's literally, it's impossible to even think about. But you also can't help but think that in those 14 minutes, the one thing that stopped evil was a weapon in the hands of a good guy. And so then you can only think, why don't more good guys have guns? Why aren't there more good guys there to get to do their lawful duty, if you will? And it tears me apart. The other part that tears me apart is, man, listening to some of the things when that mayor started speaking, that, hats off to local law enforcement. I watched a few things on it as well, who were able to, this chick had a vantage point. She was on the second floor. So they're taking obviously fire as they, head that way. They said as they're approaching the school, they took fire and then obviously breached the classroom and did what they needed to do. But the first thing that mayor said was, obviously guns are to blame. But guns also need the credit for stopping the madness. It just gets old. It's their same narrative, and it can't help. It sort of infuriates you just a little that you're thinking about these 3 babies that perished and these 3, 60-some-odd-year-old adults that perished by the hands of a clown who didn't know that what she was. And I almost think society's to blame for half of this, Paul. I truly do. I think we need to put society on the forefront, because we're allowing these people just to think whatever they want to think, however they want to think. I'm this, I'm that. You're not. Let's just be honest. You're what you were born as. And I'm not trying to get into a philosophical debate, because I truly don't care who you marry, who you love. Love is just love. Love people. But at the same time, if you're so mixed up in who you are, I read one of her posts that the New York Post actually had an article. I don't know if y'all saw that, but it was talking about, and I thought it was kind of weird, but women make up just 2% of mass shooters across the country, according to the Violence, Project database. And they're calling her a female. So, it's kind of funny. Sometimes we're females, sometimes we're males, whatever we decide that we are. So you got this mixed up woke culture who are literally, they're able to vote. They're able to change things in our society. They're, obviously trying to change things as far as our Constitution is concerned. But obviously the thinking's messed up at some point in time that it's okay to go out and shoot children. The whole thing is it's truly unbelievable. If this isn't a wake up call for us to say, man, we're going to have some kind of resource officer. We're going to have good guys with guns in place. I was going with that New York Post, but it had her. I scrolled off of it. There it is. Sorry. The following year, she posted a link to a petition to keep guns out of school in connection to the Sandy Hook massacre in 12. She wrote alongside the post, so important. So you have these people who are, trying to do things and petition to obviously remove guns from school. If that wasn't her intention to potentially set up what she had going on, I don't know of any other. And again, who do we hold responsible for schools not being able to protect themselves? Those are the things I can't help but think about. And it bothers the shit out of me, man. Because the more and more you think about it, more and more you're like, is this, are these your pawns? Are these children your pawns for your political gain, for your agenda, for your taking guns away? I don't know, man. I really don't even know where I guess I'm real pissed off right now. And I don't even know who I'm pissed off at. Obviously her.
Mackenzie, your thoughts?
I mean, it's sad that we as a country keep dealing with this. There's been way too many of these. It kind of hits close to home. Not that we've had a shooting here locally, but just recently we had our own threat to my daughter's school. She's in kindergarten. And just that threat alone, there was arrests made in it, teenagers, but just the threat alone gives you this gut-wrenching feeling to where you're scared to send your kids to school. And that's not a feeling you should have as a parent. And kids shouldn't be scared to go to school. I think there's a mental health crisis in our world. I think we're accepting of too many things and people trying to be what they want to be, and it's getting taken way too far and out of context. And these people need actual mental help. And at the end of the day, they are they're targeting our children in so many different aspects, not just schools, but they're targeting our children, and it's disgusting. I mean, if somebody has a crisis that bad going on in their head, I just can't fathom, and I don't understand why it's being taken out on innocent children. It does, like Kendall said, it pisses you off. It kind of chokes you up and it pisses you off to think, because we all have kids, and to think of this situation. And then the fact, going into the gun situation, I got into kind of a little debate with a local teacher here who said, no, teachers shouldn't carry guns, because I'm all for. I think teachers should be trained professionals and being able to protect the children that they're with every single day. Because the only way to get rid of a bad guy is a good guy with a gun. And I firmly believe that. We wouldn't have to wait 14 minutes for law enforcement to come and do the job for them. I think it needs to be legalized. And I had a teacher locally say she wouldn't be comfortable, and their systems that are in place are good enough. And I don't fucking see that happening when people are dying.
No, and we'll get more into that later, because that's an excellent point that, I think we need to make sure we stress that nobody is suggesting that we force all teachers to carry firearms. But I can promise you that if you made this almost like a free country and allowed people who wanted to and were capable, we might have a lot different outcome. And I'll cite some stats here shortly. Chad, give me your thoughts on I'm sorry, Mackenzie.
Well, and one more thing. And I mean, and let the choice be theirs. And like you said, we'll get into that later, but let the choice be theirs. And I can guarantee you, depending on states, more than likely, more are going to choose to carry to protect their schools and their own.
Right. That's right. Chad?
Yeah, man, I was at work today and this came across my phone. I saw it and turned it on, and I didn't really know what was going on. It's probably had already been happening an hour or so. It was definitely over. But I watched, things throughout the day before we got on tonight, and, talked to a few people about it. And, we were going back and forth. Is it a girl? Is it, what true gender is it? Or what were they born as you should say. And for me, I was like, that's the first time in a long time that, or maybe ever, that I can recall that I've heard it was a female shooter. They always say that's the very minority. It's 98% males or whatever their statistic was. But what you guys have talked about already and everything is the transgender community, as far as I know and what I've seen, are not pro-gun people by any means. So what made this person just decide to use the one thing that they probably protested against or fought against or were against or didn't believe in? What made them turn and say, I'm going to use these as in this way, and two, where, they don't know. I haven't heard where she got the guns or how she, bought them. If she wasn't, I can't imagine she could have legally bought them, that's a standard thing. But it's just weird that, being everything she was or portrayed, he, him, she, her, whatever. I don't know. It's just an odd thing to just flip. Did they have prior training and before they decided to transgender to change? I don't know. It's a weird thing. I'm still thinking about that in my head. It goes, what makes this person that was most likely probably against guns in a very, way. It's weird. I don't know. I'm still processing all this.
It makes you think, like, what point did they have to prove?
Yeah. I mean, even though, how do they learn? Someone's got to teach them. If they walk in with what they say, 2 AK-47s on and a pistol, you've got to know the basic methods of how these things function. You've had to go somewhere and shot them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've pulled a bunch of pictures off the internet today. And in fact, one of probably all of our mutual friends just texted me this while we were talking. He's watching. And this picture only confuses me more. Best I can do is put it in front of the camera. But I'm asking myself, girl or boy? That's the shooter right there. Holding no, that's not an AR-15. That's an AK. You can see the gas tube there. So yeah, they're holding an AK at the range, shooting an AK. And as Chad said, they are typically not the people who are going to march lockstep with the Second Amendment people. But you do notice how the trans killer is in all black. So that's indicative of that Antifa movement. I'm not assuming that. I'm just saying that that's kind of the ones you see that are more into that. I just want to point out a couple of things that have kind of come to light about this person. Again, they do have their manifesto. I think, put this up. Let me scroll back up to it real quick. I wanted you to see this. Here we go. Police official said Hale, which is the trans killer, had formerly been a student at the small private Christian school, but they were still investigating when. Drake said Drake is the police chief. Drake said authorities believe they understood Hale's motive, which Drake indicated was connected to being transgender. There is some theory to that, he said in response to a question. We're investigating all the leads, and once we know exactly, we'll let you know. One of the news reporters earlier, and I saved some links earlier. I'll try to scroll to them here a bit and I get to them. One of the news reporters during my live stream made the comment that this person was transgender, but there was no indication that they had mental problems. I'm like, you dumbass, you just defined the mental problem. I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is an absolute fact. If you are a boy and you think you're a girl, you have a mental problem. If you're a girl and you think you're a boy, you have a mental problem. If you're a person and you think you're a dog, you have a mental problem. This is a clear-cut mental problem. If this person thought they were the wrong gender, which is what they thought, why are you questioning whether or not this person had issues? this person probably should have been, and I'm not one to prevent people from purchasing guns, but this person probably could have and should have been mentally adjudicated, which would have prevented them from buying a firearm. Now, I'm against background checks at that level anyway, so I'm not going to go into that. But there are laws in place that should have prevented somebody like this from getting a gun. However, they were never put into any kind of institution because, and this is some of the stuff that I think Mackenzie and Kendall both alluded to, we have gotten to a point in society where when people think or do stupid, whacked out, crazy stuff that's truly not or should not be acceptable, we're all shamed into accepting it. In other words, the attempt is there to shame us into accepting that. Like, I'm supposed to be okay with some chick that thinks she's a guy. I'm not okay with that. And you can't shame me into being okay with that. I don't think any of us on here are like that. And I don't think anybody watching this stream is like that. But that's what the mainstream media and society in general, the direction they're going in, that they would like for us to do. They want us all to fit into a box to where we believe all the same stupid stuff. Because if you can make people believe something that's stupid and silly, imagine all the more believable stuff that you can actually make them believe. If you can make somebody believe that a biological woman like this trans killer is, if you can make them think that they should go along with the lie that that person is a male, it's very easy to convince them of other way more logical sounding things that they might go, hey, yeah, well, I can buy that because you were stupid enough to believe this. I think that you're going to find that society is not going to be so forgiving of that. Now, the one point that I would like to point out why I think there was a lot of confusion today about this trans killer, if we're going to all agree that this is a biological female, which it seems like everything is pointing to that now, a girl who thought that she was a boy, what led to a lot of the confusion is the mainstream media. You guys know how, remember the big bulky swimmer guy who was beating the brakes off all these girls in a swimming pool? Girl, woman, female, everywhere you turn, this is a chick, this is a female. Oh, she's so brave. She this, her that. She's clearly a guy. Everybody knows that he is a guy. Sorry. But we're calling it a girl all the time. The news media called this biological transgender female a girl all day today. So that's kind of confusing to me because you guys will tote the company line all day long when you have a champion of your little transgender movement out there that you approve of, but yet whenever you don't approve of their actions, now they're their original gender. It's funny how they abandon their own people. They're going to find a way to try to erase this because this is the kind of person they're looking to protect in many cases. So I know I'm taking too long. I just want to turn that back over to you guys. That's just my thoughts on where the confusion was today, because they kind of shunned one of their own today and pushed them aside and would not call them the gender that they preferred. Oh, one more quick point. I made this point early on in the live stream earlier around lunchtime today, that the reason why they were calling this trans person a girl is because when they got to her, she was dead. So she couldn't say what her pronouns were. So they had to call her what anybody else would call a dead body that had all the resemblance of a female. They had to call it a girl because she wasn't able to utter what her pronouns were because she was dead. So that's also why I was leaning towards this being a female all day long today. We'll get more into the statistics that Chad brought up about most of these types of rampage killers are male. But I just want to get y'all's thoughts on where the media is with this, and how do you think the media is going to run with this now? How do they shape this? Because it's going against everything that they think.
That's exactly what you said, though. That was kind of to my point. But the New York Post, obviously, we know where they stand. But even they aren't calling. I foul it up too. So his pronoun, if that's what he identifies as, they're blatantly calling it a she, and they're talking about women being 2% of the mass killers. I'm like, dude, where'd y'all's narrative go? This don't fit your bullshit. What you think is correct. So now she's a woman at this point because we don't want to offend any transgender, even though she was a transgender. It's just a joke. The whole thing is a joke. It's a farce. It's a laughable. Literally, the news. It's not even news anymore because they've just put out what they want to say. That's the whole part that pisses you off. You got these people thinking they're normal. That's not normal. It's not normal at all. If you're born with a penis, you are a man. period. You don't get to go in the girls' bathroom. You don't get to compete. You don't even get to be Woman of the Year. I thought Dave Chappelle had a great piece on that, and he made it laughable. But how did a dude win Woman of the Year? What is ESPN? What is this whole thing? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And we're over here buying it because we don't have enough of us, or maybe we're just too tired of fighting all the stupid shit. But to say this is, man, this has got to be so far out of the way that you have to see that this is, it's lunacy. It's literally lunacy. It's something you can't even like dream up, or it's not even, I don't know. The narrative has to be so far bad, but I guess just like you said, they believe everything. Today, I'm a dog. My kid, or one of my kids said at their middle school, somebody thinks that they're an animal. Well, how in the hell has some teacher not said, look, bud, you're not an animal, and you're not going to piss on the floor in here. You're going to haul your ass to the bathroom, and you're going to pee where you need to pee. And if you're a boy animal, you're going to pee in the men's bathroom. That whole thing's a joke. And we're allowing this crap. It blows me up. So then this thinking, this ideology is so far removed that they can't even see that these little lives, these children are special, and you're going to go shoot them, bow, and just take that life, sniff it out just like that. It's unbelievable. But your mind is so warped that you don't even know what to think anymore. And we're allowing this, and we're pushing this to this next generation for them to think it's, we stand up for it and say, hell no, it's not. And then, our kids are probably like, my dad's just a little bit crazy. But maybe they just buy a little bit of what we say. And then it starts to just the numbing effect, and you dull it down like water on a rock. It gets me fired up, man. And I probably need to shut up because I end up going on a tirade. But man, coming from a woman's point of view, Mackenzie, I would like to know, is that not offensive? And I don't want to just get off this transgender shooter. I really don't. But it's it's all lines up. Is it not offensive to you as a lady that a dude won, Woman of the Year or whatever, and they're getting crowned and all this stuff, and it's not a woman? It's just not just weird. Am I the only one that thinks that?
No, I mean, I think we're all in pretty much agreement. And any woman that I've ever spoken to, I feel like they're trying to wipe women off of the map. And they say they're not trying to do that. They idolize women, but they can't even tell you what a woman is because they're trying to change the meaning of what it actually is. And we're being quite literally wiped off of the map, and from our own sports, from our own homes, from anything that we've ever been. They try to take away our womanhood, our motherhood. They're trying to change the names that they call women in certain words, breastfeeding to feeding person. It's all bullshit. So yeah, no, it pisses me off because I am a woman and that's not a woman.
Pisses me off too.
Yeah. I want to point out real quick, 1 second, Chad, to Kendall's point about talking about, he mentioned Dave Chappelle. I couldn't help but think of when I mentioned that the wackos on the far left are not claiming this as one of theirs now. They're just calling it a girl instead of a boy. I remember the Dave Chappelle episode whenever they had the race war where the black people didn't want to claim OJ because he was a killer. Like they gave him to the white people because he acted too white. It's like they don't want to claim their trans as being one of theirs now. Like, no. Y'all can have, that's a her now. That's not a he. That's a her.
It was the draft. Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly right. The race draft. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the transgender aspect of this is just something they aren't typically used to dealing with in this type of situation. It's just not a common occurrence. And I don't know if they're going to, how long they'll portray that, or if it kind of gets, maybe they don't want to, maybe it's about what happened. And it's, it's obviously about the guns and more stricter rules and laws and things like that. But, I'm with everybody here. It's a mental illness thing here. There's something going on. We don't have the answers yet. I don't know if anyone does, but and they've mentioned that. I think watching the news and in general, they seem to mention mental health a lot more now than they used to. Did you not see that at all, Kendall? Because I actually saw that in some of them.
No, I'm with you. It's like, I feel like we're stating the obvious. Like what you're saying, I'm in line with, but I'm like, are we the only 4 people in the world that think like this is definitely something wrong?
Yeah.
No, I think most
100
people are just kind of scared to speak up about it because until people kind of build their own backbone, basically, we've made it way too acceptable and common for people just to cancel you or degrade you for your belief systems if it goes against theirs. If you have a more conservative view and you're rooted in those beliefs, you're canceled. You're wrong. You're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a, transphobe or whatever. What's it called? Transphobic, I guess, whatever it's called. But you're silenced because if it's not their belief, there is no belief. Like it's that agenda or there's no agenda. And I think the media is going to really play this down because I think this is the first, I don't know. I think this is kind of at the forefront of them dealing with a trans shooter, specifically a female. I haven't heard of many females shooting up schools, so I could be wrong about that. But I think they're going to tread lightly on this situation given the facts at hand. And I don't think it's going to make much media news.
No, there's not many statistically. I believe it's at 2% women who have been involved in mass shootings, so to speak. And psychologically and physically, again, I'm sorry, we have to go back to the fact that we do have two genders and they're distinctly different, not just in strength and what they can do, but also how they think. And what I mean by that is there is science that backs up, real science, not Fauci science, that backs up how men's brains work, the chemical makeup. We're talking about dopamine, serotonin, all those things like that inside a man's brain makes him more reactionary, a lot less. I know we could poke fun about these things, but these are statistical facts and scientific facts that men will typically do things in a lot different manner and women approach them from a much different manner. It's just a fact. I mean, I know that Mackenzie, sorry, but I know most women are crazy as hell. I mean, I'm gonna have to give you that. Most women.
Why do you think that most men? Why do you think the leaders in the world, the people that run big companies, that run the world, basically, are primarily men? Statistically, because they don't let their emotions get involved. We are emotionally driven human beings, and that's just a fact.
With this person being a woman, I'm really for one thing, you're going to find psychotropic drugs in their background. And this is not a knock against all people who take mood altering or psychotropic drugs. SSRIs help a lot of people in the world. I'm aware of that. I know that. And there's way more people that probably are helped by SSRIs and any kind of psychotropic drug than are hurt. But there's a lot of over medicating of people in this world. And I can guarantee you that we're going to track this back to somehow. And again, I'm not putting blame on medication because this is still a person who pulled the trigger. Again, I'll repeat what I said earlier on my show is that I'm all about accountability. I don't care what things led up to this person doing this. They still pulled the trigger and they should be held accountable. And I'm glad they're dead. But with that being said, there are things that trigger these types of events and push a person along the way. Now, they have to be strong enough to not succumb to that. But at the same time, there are life events that make people do various things. I mean, you get depressed because something in your life happens. You didn't want to be depressed. You know, something just happened in your life that put you in that space for a short period of time. Some people can't run from that. And most of these SSRIs and psychotropic drugs, they have black box warnings. In fact, I think almost all of them have black box warnings, and that's given by the FDA. And that tells the doctor, who does never communicate this to the patients or the patient's parents, by the way, I'd like to point that out, that these drugs can make a person manic, psychopathic, suicidal, homicidal, go into fits of rage, not to mention all the other things that, you know, diet and things like that, weight gain, weight loss, all those things. But these are things that are never discussed. Anybody on, and again, I'm not picking on people who take these drugs because, again, they help a lot of people. But I'd be willing to bet that most of the people that are on here watching this live stream who probably are on these types of drugs, I'll bet you nobody told you that this drug could make you manic or suicidal. And the sad thing is, once you determine that a person's, let's say they become suicidal, and boy, I've got some studies I could show you where people went into some testing and they I think 6 people in a particular test for an SSRI became suicidal while they were running the test, and they had to pull them off immediately. Problem is, when you pull a person off these types of drugs, in a lot of cases, they become even more suicidal or manic or homicidal. So the problem is, I think that we're dealing with somebody who probably was caught in that loop. Again, not putting fault on the drugs, just saying.
We've both spoke about suicide in some of our previous shows and how bad it is and how a problem it is with people that they're just suicidal and they aren't on any drugs. Like you said, take someone that may be suicidal, doesn't necessarily portray that to their physicians or doctors. They're put on this medicine, and that instead of making them better, it just enhanced that feeling they have.
That's right.
And maybe even blurs their thoughts even more. So yeah, I mean, it's an issue.
To your point, a lot of these drugs will not put somebody in a state of euphoria or something, but it blurs their sense of reality. So like you said, if they're already kind of in that state, now they get to a point where things don't seem really real. And when things don't seem really real, they don't seem really dangerous. Like you may be more apt to do things that you would not have normally done on off of the drug, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's a huge topic that I talk a lot about. It's one of my most passionate topics, but there's part of me that I don't discredit modern medicine. I think, if I'm in a car crash, please take care of me. However, we are an over-medicated society, fueled and our profit goes all to big pharma profits, trillions of dollars every year, because healthy people don't make big pharma any money. We are a very over-medicated society. We don't go into the doctor. They don't teach us how to eat healthier. They don't teach us how to heal our guts, which you can look it up. A lot of mental issues are actually stemmed from an unhealthy gut and the way that you fuel your body with so many processed shit that the US allows in our foods. So I could go off on a tangent on that all day, but we are an over-medicated country with very small portions and small resources to psych evaluations and psychiatrists, basically. They just want to shove medications down your throat and say, here you go. But rarely are these side effects even talked about.
Well, real quick, if you can the more people you can medicate, what happens? They become dependent on the person giving them the medication. So now you have a controllable society. Again, not stating 100%. That everybody who takes medication is in that category. I'm not implying that. But no one can sit here with a straight face and tell me that we are not over-medicating the population today.
We are. We're completely over-medicating.
Yep.
And I am willing to bet that 9 out of 10 of these shooters were on some sort of medication.
Well, I can prove that to you. I wrote the book on it. So
I was gonna say there's a book written on that, huh?
Yeah.
Is there? I didn't know that, but yep. I wouldn't doubt it in the slightest.
Yeah, that's why I say this person here is going to fall into what I identify in my book as the devil's triangle. There's the 3 things that are so common are, first, they come from a broken home of some sort, usually fatherless homes, because 79% of the people incarcerated come from fatherless homes. It's statistical facts. This is not about race. It is an actual thing. So broken homes are usually, now broken home can be anything from a person who is mentally abused, physically abused, sexually abused, or parents who are substance abusers of some sort, not present, divorced families, just a home that is not ideal, which I know that sounds a little bit like a broad brush, because who has a perfect family, right? I mean, does anybody really? No. I mean, nobody has or grew up in the perfect family, but still, you know what I'm saying? And then from that goes, okay, we had, and again, I can send you to my book, howtomakeamonster.com, if you want to go there and get it. But it's got definitely some correlations that once that person is an abused family, now they become kind of to themselves and all that. Oh, well, guess what? Little Johnny's antisocial. Now he doesn't play with the other kids. Maybe he's depressed. So do you put him on drugs? This person you think has ADHD at a young age when actually they're just being a child. So let's put him on a drug so that he's more controllable in class. Next thing you know, you've created a little dope head because you're feeding him all these drugs in school, and he's 7. And then at some point, this kid becomes even more suicidal into himself because now he doesn't possess the right social skills because he's on medication that blurs his sense of reality. And now he gets bullied. And, the book that I wrote shows you that those three things, again, I call it the devil's triangle. When you have those three things present, it's not to say that when all three of those are present that you have a rampage killer, but guess what? All the rampage killers did have those three things present. So not everybody's going to be rampage killers, but every rampage killer did have that. And that is an absolute fact. We can talk more on that later.
Yeah, no, I believe it.
If you guys want to keep the conversation going on that, I'm going to go hunt some other links because this is a pretty fluid thing right now. What they're still trying to figure out what the hell happened. And if y'all want to carry the discussion on,
I like to say two things.
I did say they did confirm that they went to the school. It was a former student.
Yes.
I did see that.
That's right.
Yeah. I want to address two things. One of the comments, Wandering Spider, in the second update, whatever that little short, fat, white mare that they have, I assume he's a mayor. I don't think he's anything more than that, but nonetheless, now states that guns are now the leading cause of death for children. And I couldn't help but appreciate Wandering Spider. The leading cause of death for children is 100% abortion. No questions asked. There is no debating that whatsoever. Good call on that. But the second thing, Paul, that you said is about that little short fat guy. The second thing you made mention, and I think a lot of parents need to face up. One of my kids plays baseball, and I like to call them roommates. One of my roommates plays a little baseball. And there was a child on one of his teams. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to point anybody out. But at the age of 12, the parents allowed the son to use a form of cannabis because of his anxiety. And, I had a talk with the parent because, he was always getting the munchies, obviously, staring in space, often took naps, side effects, all of cannabis, short-term memory loss. I was trying to be funny, but nonetheless. But I'm like, you do realize anxiety is the body's natural response to being a little nervous. You understand that nerves are a very good thing. They let you know, man, maybe I should have prepared more, or man, this is really freaking important. That adults get nervous, children get nervous, and this is how your body responds. And so these are things that they're learning life through baseball. They're not trying to become professional baseball players. They're learning how to deal with these big things in life by saying, man, I did this when I was 12. I can overcome this obstacle. I don't necessarily have to go, toot it. I can just deal with this as I should deal with this. But we've started putting children on cannabis. And again, I think cannabis is way far better than half the stuff that Big Pharma's pushing out. So don't think that I'm anti that in any way, shape, or form. But I am saying that some of these bad feelings that we get are not bad feelings. It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be anxious. These are the body's natural response. And this is what you grow from. This is, oh man, when you didn't do your homework and you should have done it, or you didn't study proper for a test, that bad feeling you get in your stomach. That's also the same feelings that when I decide, you know what, I might go shoot up a school. I get this bad feeling in my belly that says, man, this is a bad idea. But if I'm so numb to the effects of this body that I have being chemically, essentially balanced or unbalanced by all these drugs, I don't really know what's up or down anymore. And we've said it's okay. Just keep on going. You shouldn't be anxious. You shouldn't be nervous. You shouldn't be. That's total bullshit. Sorry. I'm going to queue up this video real quick so we can put in there what you were talking about. Let's see here.
From our police and fire department. So this morning I was in Boston to see my own son's sporting event, and now I am overwhelmed at the thought of the loss of these families, of the future lost by these children and their families. And the leading cause of kids get death now is guns and gunfire.
That's not true.
No, it's not.
And that is unacceptable. But I want to thank the fast response of our officers. Guns are quick. They don't give you much time. So even in a remarkably fast response, there was not enough time. And those guns stole precious lives from us today in Nashville. And in this dark hour, let us support each other. Let us go and hug our children a little bit closer tonight. And thank you all for being here. And I want to ask Chief Drake to come and give us an update.
Okay, let me fill that.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper. Again, thank you all for.
All right, so that's the guy Kendall was talking about earlier. In fact, I want to remind everybody, by the way, Chad, if we can put that back on screen, the link you had. Yeah. If anybody wants to join the show live and be on here with the panel, you can go to that link right there and we can bring you into the room if anybody wants to be on there. Something new we're trying. So I would love to have anybody on if you'd like to, just to give your thoughts on what took place today. One of the things I always like to do, and of course I did in my book, and this is not about trying to sell my book. I'm just saying I always like to approach things a little bit differently because we're always accused of the wrong thing. I'm talking about us being on the Second Amendment side. As you guys know, I'm a big Second Amendment advocate. Okay, what are the solutions? I've got plenty. This that took place today, and in many cases, many other events, including Uvalde and a lot of other places. I'm going to give you what my solutions are, and then I want to see what the rest of the panel has to say. I think that my solutions would probably put an end to most of this. The first one is harden our schools. This person originally, they said walked in through an unlocked door, but they had to retract that later and say shot the window. Okay, if somebody wants to shoot a bunch of kids, is breaking a window that big of a deal? Did you really harden your school by putting a painted glass right by the door handle? So that's not a hardened school. Don't give me that somehow or another what you have done has hardened your school because you locked the door. That's not sufficient. If you've got panes of glass that a person can knock through or shoot through simply to unlock the door, you have not hardened this school. Metal detectors. Okay, realize this person came in through an unlocked door. At the same time, this person probably could have walked in through the front door, and we see students go in classes in schools all the time who have guns. Why? Because they don't have metal detectors. So they're able to walk right into the school with the gun concealed in their backpack. The second thing is what we touched on earlier. Set up a program to where these teachers can be trained who want to carry a firearm and allow them to. I have a statistic that anybody can fact check me on. Anybody. Go fact check me right now. Google it if you want to. I don't have to look it up because I know the name of this. I know the fact of this. I know that in my lifetime, nobody has ever shot an innocent child at a school where teachers were armed. I know this. Google it, look it up, and send me the link if I'm wrong, but I can guarantee you I'm right on this. Why is that? Because people who want to shoot and kill as many people as possible don't go where they're going to meet resistance. They don't do it. Why do you think they go to schools? Now, this person obviously seems to have had a tie with the school. So there was a little bit more that attracted them to this school. But there are rampage killers throughout history who have just done an eeny, meeny, miny, mo and didn't know anybody at these locations and just went to kill a bunch of people. They chose schools. They knew there were no guns there because they knew there were gun-free zones and they knew they would meet zero resistance. In some cases, even when you have an SRO, school resource officer, the worst you have is an older weight, very old man who has a Glock on his side. That's the most resistance you meet. And these people are going into these schools with an AR-15. Well, they're pretty much going to outgun even that school resource officer if that's your only line of defense that you have. That's not enough. We need to have teachers out there. These people don't fear these school resource officers. It's not perfect, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have school resource officers, but they're definitely not the be-all, end-all. We need to have a lot more to protect our children. And I do this because I care about children. I bring my kid to school every single day. And I know for a fact that my son's school is locked up and has armed security there. I wish it was better. I wish the teachers carried firearms too. And I certainly don't think, and not implying that every teacher should have a firearm. I know plenty of people who are teachers that I don't think should ever be able to own a firearm, let alone carry one around my child in a school. But do what you have to do to make it acceptable. In all the states where this is allowed, where teachers can have these firearms, you're not seeing these school shootings. You're not seeing anything like this. So that's my solution. And Chad, what's your thoughts on this? What would your solution be in a situation like this?
You know, I mean, I have kids at school still too. So I go to schools and we do some work currently with some other schools. So I've actually been traveling to different schools in the parish or area here. And, you know, you got to go through, everyone says sign in, you know, but I've been to some and you can walk through the gym door, you know, so, and even going to them though, it's like, I've gone to the office recently and I've signed in. I'm like, is there anything else I need to do? Nope. And they'll buzz you right in. And they don't know me because I'm at a school that my kids don't go to. We're just doing some work there. And we were let in. So, I mean, we're going there for a specific event, but that doesn't mean that it's any less of a security issue, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the schools have locked down way better than they were, you know, when we all went to school. There wasn't nothing like that. And some schools are better at it. And, you know, their initial reports were that there was a door unlocked, and now they're saying they shot through the window to get into it. But, you know, Uvalde was an unlocked door a teacher had propped open, you know, and then teachers might open a window. There's just so many ways that you can lose that security of a facility easily by someone that may not even intentionally or realize that they're doing it. And it just happens to be at that wrong time in the wrong place, that they left something open or unlocked, or someone didn't get checked, or go through the proper, you know, there's a school like that or a facility. There's so many ins and outs. There's always people leave and come and go. And, you know, if you're in a high school, you might have seniors, juniors coming and going from the parking lot. There's just so many points of entry on these things. It's you know, it's hard to secure. I'm fine with resource officers and them having guns and being there. I do think that the Nashville police did a great job in their response time. I mean, they were in there and done. I mean, I don't think you could reasonably get any faster unless they were any closer than where they were. So yeah, it's tough.
Right.
You gotta lock things down, and people won't like that, and it's an inconvenience. And you know, but none of us want that call of, you know, and then even in our area, I'd say once a month, every 2 months at least, there's a kid arrested for making threats.
Yeah,
it happens all the time.
With a gun at school.
Yeah, or they find a gun in the backpack or whatever. But you know, at least kids are reporting that they know that's coming in, you know, or they know that person's making a threat. So it's good that we hear about it, and that, but it happens way too often, and I'm sure that's just our little area. It's happening all over the country.
Well, and I think too that, you know, a lot of this is we kind of have the mentality, especially I think either smaller schools or, you know, schools that are like our schools more out in the country. Everyone thinks like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. And that's kind of a mentality that I think a lot of schools have, is like, oh yeah, it does happen, but it's not going to happen to us. And so, like Chad said, it kind of becomes like an inconvenience to just continue locking everything up and have high security and check everyone in. Yeah. But it's necessary because you absolutely don't know when it could be you, and when it will be you.
I think they kind of let their guard down because nothing ever happens, but yet they're doing all these strict protocols and like, well, nothing ever happens, so I'm not going to do it.
So
this one
it's
time.
Fine. Yeah, and they let their guard down, and it's usually the people around that know that guard is down and they know where to go. All of these gunmen have either gone to school there or they know they do go to school there. They know how to get in.
They know the schedules and everything. Yeah.
Right. And it's like last week, it was actually kind of mind blowing because I was thinking of my own kid. I had to go pick up one of my best friend's 2 children. The school, I mean, the people at the school don't know me, but I call and I say, hey, you know, I've got to pick up so-and-so. And they're like, okay, yep, I'll send a note to their teacher. And I'm just like, it was over the phone. I'm like, anybody could have called you and they just let me pick up these kids. Yep. And I'm like, that's crazy to me. Apparently I look like a trustworthy person, which thank God that I am. But I think a lot of times we just have our guard down. And, you know, I worked at a hospital for many years. And when it was after hours, the hospital closed up, visiting hours were over, all of the doors were on an automatic lock and you had to get buzzed in. And I don't know why schools aren't secured the way hospitals are or the way that airports are, because it's shown time and time again that schools are primarily targeted. I don't understand it. I don't know why they don't go shoot themselves up. And I'm so sorry. I know that sounds so awful, but at the same time, it's like, why the schools, and why is the security taken so less seriously than hospitals and mental institutions and airports and all of those things? I mean, I think there could definitely be more security in place. And on top of that, like Paul said, allow the ones who want to carry to carry. There's some people that if you're a nervous wreck and you don't like guns, then please, for the love of God, don't carry a gun, because you're going to do more harm than good. But allow for those who want to carry and who want to protect. I grew up in Montana. I grew up on an Indian reservation. I graduated with 17 kids. Kids would go hunting before school. We were allowed to have guns in our cars out in the parking lot. Nothing ever happened to our school. Ever. No one ever threatened anything. No one ever did anything, because they knew that most of the kids there probably had a gun in their truck anyways, and so did the teachers. But it's just like, we've made it so accessible, and we've made these gun-free zones and all of these things where we're not allowed to protect ourselves. And this is the result of that.
Yeah. And if I could, Paul, I hate agreeing with you. I truly do, because I like to be the yin to the yang. But there's only one surefire way, because if you've ever been mad enough to get in a fight, right? You've now reached that point where you're like, I don't care who in the hell's in the way or where in the hell we're at. I promise that when I see you, it's going down. It is what it is. I've made my mind up. There's a mental decision, and it's over with. It's done. We can't think in our minds like the trans killer. We can't think that, a door was unlocked, so kind of like a dog. The dog got out. Well, the dog got out because we left the gate open. That's not how this works. They decided that they armed up, they vested up, whatever they decided to do, that they're doing this today. You can have a locked door, 2 metal detectors, and 2 old guys with 15 rounds, and they go in. I don't know why they would have 2 ARs and not just a ton of mags, but it is what it is. And bam, 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 shoot windows out, whatever I got to do. I will gain entrance. I'm going in to do what I decided to do. Now, the only line of defense are your teachers, your front line in the trenches, the ones in the class with the kids. When they breach that door, bang, 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 we go to work. And that's literally the only thing that's going to stop. And we keep pushing that away, pushing that away, pushing that away. I agree with you, Mackenzie. If the teacher doesn't feel comfortable but wants to be trained, let's train her, him, whoever it is. If they are comfortable, let them be. If they don't want to be around it, don't be around it. But if everybody knew that there's a whole lot of guns that are carried around them each and every day, and they still feel safe because they just don't know. I mean, ignorance is not bliss in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's how we treat it a lot of times. But you put guns in the hands of the good guys, and this shit ceases. One of the comments in there was that 65 shooting at, what was it, UT or somewhere, that like an off-duty cop and some civilians who had rifles in their trucks literally put that dude down. I agree, and I think that the law enforcement should get a recognition in responding in the time that they did to get the call, be there, gain access, do all that stuff. That's great. But if London Claire is one of those 3, that 15 minutes was too fucking long. And all you had to have was a teacher inside, and I get to see my baby tonight. 15 minutes is too damn long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, when you talk about these people being armed, somebody in the comment section mentioned that the trans killer shot the door out so they could get in. If you had teachers who were armed, the first time they start hearing gunshots going off, that is a perpetrator out there shooting at a door. There's nobody getting shot at. It's a door at that point. Don't you think those people have enough time to at least peek out the door before a person even has a chance to get into a classroom and start mowing kids down? That's literally a warning shot to all the armed teachers in that school. And even if it's just one, or if it's the principal or whatever. Maybe we hire better teachers. If we have a full staff that's too scared or not capable of handling guns, maybe we're hiring the wrong teachers for our schools, because I'd like to think that if I was a teacher in a school, I would do anything I could to protect those children, even if it meant doing that. And one thing that I hear all the time in a lot of the Second Amendment types of debates that whether it's a radio program or something like that I might get into, is the other side telling me that we don't want our children to feel like they're in prisons because they're in a school that is hardened. Okay, let me explain a couple of things. First of all, our schools and Congress, those are two completely gun-free zones, right? No guns allowed, at least not for you and me. Guess who's protected? Guess who gets $258 million a year to protect Congress with guns and secure that building and harden that building? I'm not talking about bringing them in there like January 6th and letting them tour the place. If somebody wants to go shoot up Congress, they ain't getting in there. They're not making it past the door. Why are we not doing that for our own children? Why are we okay with people in Congress paying themselves as much as they pay themselves and allocating money into a budget to protect them? They don't send their kids to these public schools. They don't send their kids to these soft targets. They send their kids to schools where armed security guards with AR-15s, I might add, not school resource officers, are standing at the doorway. If we're going to keep making the argument that, oh, we don't want our kids to feel like they're behind enemy lines or they're in a battlefield or whatever, have we ever asked our kids that? Have we ever asked our 5-year-old? You guys have much younger kids. Have you ever asked your kid, okay, I'm going to give you two options. Let's do a multiple choice here. We're going to either give you tell me which one you feel safer in, A or B. We're either going to give you A, which is a school that has armed security guard at the front. We have metal detectors that the kids have to walk through. All the doors have to be buzzed through. You have a card that you have to swipe to get into the school. Somebody has to let you in. Nobody can leave out of these doorways because they're always locked. Blah, blah, blah. All these things like that. Heck, I don't care. Put razor wire on top of the wall if you want to. Ask the kids if they would rather that, or would you rather nothing? And anyone with a gun can walk in and simply mow you down. Let the kids answer those questions. Let them determine whether or not they feel like they would rather be safe or moving targets for somebody that wants to walk in off the streets and kill them. I think if we're going to use that as an argument, then let's hear from the kids. I'd be willing to bet any non-coached kid who's not coached by their parent to say the right thing is going to tell you, I'll take the guy with the AR-15 and the full plate kitted out. I'd like that. Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll take A. I'd be willing to bet they'd all take that.
Yeah. Mine would.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
But
And
we're speaking for our kids, and that's not right. If we're going to speak the wrong way, we should truly be their proponent of safety. And I don't think we're doing a good enough job in general as parents to do that. We should be pushing harder for these schools to get hardened.
Right. No, I agree. And someone made the comment, where it starts at home. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. And all we can do is do our own part, because it's not going to be my kid. And it's so unfortunate that this does happen.
Yep.
It's so unfortunate. And it's so sad to know that, I mean, I'm talking 99% of the people that do this crazy stuff, they all have some sort of background and traumatic past. But also, we all have some sort of story in a past.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you argue that? But I know it's not going to be my kid.
So pointed at what you're talking about, Paul. You have two, trains of thought. Look just in the comments. Fluffy Bunny, I choose choice C, Abrams tanks for everyone, which I absolutely love as well. And then literally just the comment right above it, there's got to be a middle, ground. You described a prison. I hate to say I disagree 100% wholeheartedly. I don't think necessarily a prison. I've been to a lot of nice places that I felt safe in that weren't just all glass. I mean, if you slept in a glass room at night, I just almost venture to say you probably wouldn't feel safe. And that's what some classrooms look like. There's just access everywhere. Just people can see in. I don't
every school I've gone to in our town that I go back to now when we went, there were schools were on 3-4 acres. The fields were all wide open for recess. You go there now, there's a 6-foot fence around all of them. There I don't think there are any that aren't fenced in. So they've closed off all the schools in our area for the most part, and they do all get buzzed in. And the resource officers at our public schools that me and Paul's kids are at, that's probably what in the last 2 or 3 years, Paul, they've put those in.
Yeah.
So they haven't been there that long,
Right.
or not on an all day basis like they are now.
Yeah.
So, it's good that they have that, but there's been incidents at schools that our kids go to that, they've been locked down or they've had an issue. And, so, that the kids are used to that. I mean, kids are growing up today in a way that we don't know, combined with everything, their current situations, social media, the internet, we didn't have that, So it's Kendall got back on the anxiety thing, there's so much more on a kid's mind these days. We were worried about where are we going to play baseball at today, and let's go swimming at so-and-so's house tonight. Like someone said, when you used to want to find your friends, you'd ride around your bike all day and find out whose house had the most bikes in front of it. And that's where they all were.
Yeah.
So, they don't have that now. A kid knows everything that their friends are doing right at the moment. And they may not be able to do it for some reason, or they got punished, they have a bad grades. Now they don't get to participate. And they know all weekend or all that day that I missed out on this.
Yeah.
And I think that just freaks some of them out, and they don't know how to deal with it. So
they don't, because everything's accessible right at their fingertips. Everything is
Correct.
a right
They know
now
what they're missing.
situation. Yeah. And so when they can't have that instant gratification, it's like their mind just freaks out. And then what do? We medicate them. And then what does that cause? It causes mentally unstable little human beings. Like they're growing up in a world where everything is like right now gratification, and everything is so accepted that it's like, it's my way or the highway type thing. And a lot of it, I blame social media. There's actually a documentary, I can't remember what it's called, but it's on Netflix, and it goes over basically how us as a society and what social media has done to our brains, basically, and how it has altered our brains and how we live our lives now compared to 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even, because I graduated in 2010 and school still wasn't like that. We were just coming into like the Facebook phase, but my phone I had a flip phone. Like it didn't have access to the internet. I had to get on my dial up at home, and I had a 30-minute window to check my MySpace. And guess what? That was it. Like I had to go read a book. We still had a landline in my kitchen. I had to talk to everyone from my kitchen because it had a cord on it. Like the times are just so different, and it's causing like Kendall. I mean, what you guys said, I don't know if Kendall said that, but the anxiety, it's causing these kids to just overthink and just like freak out basically because everything is so accessible right now, and their minds, like Chad said, are just going a million miles an hour because they're thinking of what's going on TikTok, what's going on Facebook, what's going on Instagram, what their friends are doing, who's dating who, this Snapchat, who's bullying, I'm getting bullied here. Like it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and I don't think that kids are not allowed to be mediocre anymore either. Facebook has not allowed that. Facebook now, of course, giving everybody a trophy doesn't help, but I think that the fact that even the push to send everybody to college, people can't change spare tires anymore, but they can somehow or another tell you what formula or whichever. I just feel like in a lot of cases we're making our kids think that they have to all be perfect, and none of them are perfect, just like none of us are perfect. But social media has made them all feel like they have to be perfect and then have to all be rock stars all the time. And you can't be a rock star all the time. The rock stars aren't rock stars all the time.
Right. Well, I feel like sometimes it's one or the other. Like you're either on one end of the spectrum where you're expected to be absolutely perfect and you're compared to everybody, and the list is a mile long because of social media. And then on the other hand, we are congratulating and giving gold medals to just anyone who participates.
Yeah.
So it's like we either have to be perfect or we just get a slap on the back because we participated. And it's like we're raising a bunch of entitled, like I don't even know, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the proper terms to even use at this point, but it's like this next generation honestly freaks me out. But I know that all I can do is raise my kid the way that I know how.
One point I want to make about this particular shooting that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and it's because I'm a caring person. I think I'm inherently a decent person, is that here we have a person who everyone has allowed to pretend to be a different gender. Now, this is not a knock on people who think they're a different gender. This is more a knock on the rest of society allowing that to exist without calling it out. Because when you allow someone with a mental problem to coexist with everybody else and you never shine any light on it, never try to get them help, they're never going to get help.
Yeah.
They're just not going to. They're stuck in a rut. I think that we as society, whether it's family members, friends, people, our classmates at school, coworkers, if you see somebody who's having a mental breakdown and something's not right, most good people are going to do what they can to try to talk to them to get them help. But yet we've been convinced that we're supposed to accept the mentally unstable people who think they're a different gender. And we shouldn't do that because they're not mentally right and they need help. And I'm speaking from the point of trying to help these people instead of letting them be who they are. That's fine. I mean, if somebody thinks he's a bird or something like that, you can do it in a nice kind of way to get them help, to allow them to kind of get back grounded to reality. If these people I feel like there's two different types of trans people out there. They're the ones who think it's super cool because the media and society has made it so cool to now, if you're a boy, think that you're a girl, to if you're 12-year-old girl to lop off your breast in a surgery because you somehow another want to, wear flannel and have a boy's haircut. Those are phases. We shouldn't be allowing that and encouraging that. All we're doing is perpetuating these people who truly have, I hate to say it, a screw loose. I think everybody in our family's had somebody that's got a screw loose. I know I have. So
yeah,
my point is we should be looking out for those people. Anyone in my family or my close circles, whether it was school or whichever, that I saw something wasn't right, you don't have to call them out in front of everybody. I'm not telling you shine a light on them in front of a gym, in a gym full of people. Pull them aside and talk to them. Hey, man, is everything all right? You need something? You want to come by the house later and chill or whatever? I mean, have a conversation off the record or something like that to truly try to help these people. You don't have to call them out and shame them, but at the same time, don't just ignore them.
Kids these days are very good at hiding, whether if they feel suicidal or depressed. I think, and it's so say if someone says, hey, I'm going to the doctor today because I have a stomach ache. Okay, cool. I hope you feel better. But if a kid says, hey, I'm going to see a psychiatrist today for my mental well-being, someone's like, oh, well, why are you doing that?
Right.
So they really shouldn't. It should be the same. They're getting help for what they feel bad for. But there's still there's that, people just don't like to talk about that. But you're right. People do need to step up. And if you see something with a friend and say, hey, you need to talk to me, or is there someone else you need to talk to?
Mm-hmm.
And schools have really good support these days, at least the ones I've dealt with. They all have good counselors. They're looking for this stuff now. So they're actually paying attention and talking to the kids and working with them. And they know the kids that might have some issues or problems and are going through different things. But still, it's getting them to talk about it.
Yeah, that's true.
It is true. I don't know.
Well, guys, I think we need to wrap things up here. I would like to point out that please, those of you who've watched us on Legally Armed America tonight, if you would go follow on Thinktown Podcast, also on YouTube. We do have a channel out there that we're building. And before too long, we'll only show this out there. And a lot of people went and subscribed to it today. I think I told Chad earlier that during my podcast earlier on Legally Armed America, I was sending people over there, and we had 30-something new subs just this afternoon. So I appreciate you guys that went over there and did that. A lot of you came into the comment section and told me that you did, and I'm appreciative of that. I guess the lesson I'd like to leave everybody with is that, we're here in many cases. I'm talking about people in general. I don't think we're put on this earth to do wrong to one another. I'm not a kumbaya kind of guy either, but at the same time, when somebody does something wrong, I feel like that person is evil to the core. And I'm not one that will make excuses. Just like I stated earlier, I think accountability is a very big thing. I got my ass whipped a lot of times as a kid from my parents and earned every single butt whipping that I got. I knew that. I knew when I was getting my ass tore up that I earned that. And I knew that it was something stupid that I had done. But at the same time, I think that we also have a responsibility to try to help other people out. And even if it's not politically correct, like in this case, it would not have been politically correct if you were to have called this shooter out for not being right. And I think that sometimes we have to do the right thing instead of trying to do the acceptable thing. And I think in this case, a lot of people probably let this situation metastasize because they didn't want to be the uncool person and call this person out or try to get them help because it wasn't the socially acceptable thing, because now all of a sudden it had become socially acceptable to let somebody be mentally wrong and not call them out on it. So unfortunately, I think we have to step outside the society's comfort zone, maybe not necessarily our own, but society's comfort zone, and do the difficult things sometimes and help somebody out that really needs help.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we're going to roll out of here. Chad, Kendall, Mackenzie, really appreciate you guys. A lot of good dialogue on this, good conversation, and I appreciate all y'all's input. Hopefully we can carry this over. If you guys will share this video on all of your social medias, I think it was a really good conversation. I'd like to see the comments on this. Don't forget, you can always share this video after the live stream on all of your other social medias out there, and you can still comment on it. So if you have friends that want to go back and watch this and what we talked about and add their 2 cents, tell them to do so and put their comments in there. We do our best to try to go out there and comment on the or respond to the comments. So do that as well, because we'd like to go out there and visit with you guys through the comment section as well and keep this conversation going. On behalf of Chad, Kendall, and Mackenzie, if you guys don't have anything else, we're going to go ahead and get out of here.
I'll say one last thing. At the end of all of this, I do want to send my hugs, my prayers, my love, and my condolences to everyone involved in Nashville.
100%.
So with that being said, thank you guys.
All right, folks, you have a good evening.